thank you everybody for being here. And the meeting this is a community meeting, so it's not a council meeting. And it's a meeting so that you can find out more information about this free market ventures, which is a water agreement that these gentlemen here have come to us, which is the Department of Water Supply, for a water source in upcountry. And the reason why I wanted to call the meeting is that this, oh wait, sorry. I'm going to first introduce Councilmember Tom Cook. He's here. Thank you very much for being here. Nohe Hajens wanted to be here, but she had to do something on Oahu, so she has staff listening to the meeting. And then after I give my opening, I'll introduce all those important people on the table. But I wanted to have this meeting because this is a resolution, which means it has passed out of committee, and it has one more hearing, which will be on, if it does get posted on that agenda, on April the 5th, and if one reading and it passes. And I just thought, okay, I need to let my community know, and my community is upcountry, but I want you to all know that this is not only about upcountry. This is about every single person who pays a water bill or has been waiting a long time for a water meter, because that's always the cry that we hear upcountry, right? So this is going to satisfy, hopefully, some of those people who've been waiting years for the water meter list to be, so that they could have their water source. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing that I realize is that this agreement is actually a 30-year agreement that's going to affect all of us that pay. If you're customers of the water department, you're going to be impacted. Is it going to be rate increases? You know, what is it? And I just thought, okay, I got to be fair, because if I just only think about my community, let's pass this, because I want all those people who have been contacting me from the day I've been elected. I want my water meter, and it's frustrating. Very good reasons why some of their relatives have passed on, and they're still waiting for this water meter. So the county, we have a responsibility. And I thought this is a bigger story than just only upcountry. So I have Akaku here from, Chivo from Akaku, who's filming this live. It'll be on Facebook. And so that the greater community, whoever is interested, can hear about it. I did a press release just because I wanted the greater community to know that this meeting is happening. And that, anyway, that's my story for why. I have, and people are still coming in, thank you. So tonight we have Caleb Rowe, who's our Corporation Council water expert. We have Director John Stufflebean, our water director. I truly, truly appreciate working with him all during COVID, no, sorry, wrong one, all during the disaster when we were having a hard time having water to drink and people were getting very frustrated. I just asked him, you want to have a community meeting? And he immediately said yes, and he helped me set the meeting. So he always has a very open mind, and I like him because he's brand new and he's open to new ideas. So because he's like this, here we are today. This is a brand new idea, private-public partnerships, which I believe in, but it has to be right? And then we have our adventurous Jack Buck, who is the founder of Free Market Ventures, LLC, and has come to the county with an agreement, as well as his attorney, who's very, very smart, Michael Smith, and who has put this agreement together and worked on it. And I think once you meet them, they could tell you that they have a history of doing this and have some successes. So that's very exciting for us, right? And then we have Dick Mayer. So Dick Mayer is actually a retired economics professor at UH Maui Community College, Vice Chair Makawao Pukalani Kula Community Plan, a member of the Maui Electric Company Integrated Energy Plan, and he also was the Vice Chair of the Maui General Plan Advisory Committee. So we have all of these people who are interested in this issue, and I just wanted to give them a voice, and after they speak, then I'm going to ask if you have questions. I'm going to, this is not going to be a fight. I don't want it to get contentious. So I've asked Corp Counsel to be here to help guide us because we don't want to do anything that's off base. I know water is a very, very contentious issue because as soon as I sat down as I was waiting for you to come in, people brought their folders. I have this problem. And I said, wait, I'm not John Stuffleby. You can ask him. So I have a list for you, Mr. Stuffleby. But that's how important water is, right? And we're all living it. So before I do this, I also invited, I see Bobby Patno from Kula Community Association. I also invited Donna Clayton, who's from Pukalani Community Association. And I don't know, Bobby, you just want to say a few words before we dig in?
Thanks, Yuki-Lei. I'm Bobby Patno, and I'm president of the Kula Community Association. And we didn't find out about this until February 29th, I believe it was. And Dick immediately went into analysis on it, and he did testify to council, to the Water Committee, Tom Cook's committee. And as a result of his testimony, which was a lot of questions about this agreement, Director Stuffleby put together a meeting with Dick, myself, and Doug Sheehan, who's my vice president, with Free Market Ventures, so we could ask a lot of questions. And I personally got a lot out of that meeting, and it was very helpful to me. Coincidentally, that night, the Kula Community Association board had a meeting, and we discussed this at length. And the board ended up taking a position that we are in favor of a well that helps solve the upcountry water meter list. But we have a lot of concerns about this contract with Free Market Ventures and the cost of the contract. And we also are very adamant that we must finally get the Kula Community Center land. So that happened, and then since then, we've had a lot more information come to us. There's been a lot of great testimony at council. In addition to Dick, Carl Friedman, who is a real expert on water upcountry, testified with some more concerns. The contract itself is very fluid, as I think I just saw another version of it today. And also the Board of Water Supply was able to meet on this. And if you haven't watched that meeting, you probably want to do that because there's a lot of good information. So we have another meeting coming up with the Kula Community Association Board next week, and we will be taking this up again. And so our position isn't final at this time either. So I hope you all ask questions, and I'm really here to listen to what you, the community, are interested in knowing. So I do appreciate you inviting me to talk tonight. Thanks, Yuki-Lei.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Carl, you're here too. So maybe later you can speak also. So Carl Friedman is a PUC, a water expert, and he was one of the main persons that came to testify at council that had great questions and kind of dissected the agreement too. So again, first I want to start off by just saying I really appreciate this. It definitely, for me, it opened up my eyes saying, hey, you know what? We have this huge problem, and here this like angels from off island has come with solutions, you know, is really what they're doing. And so that's a stretch? Okay, angels is a stretch. But somebody who can find water is kind of interesting. And what Bobby was talking about, before I turn this over to director, then I'll give it over to Free Market, is that this agreement is the purchase of what we know as the Von Tebsky property. And so it is behind the Kula Community Center, which a lot of us have used. And the Kula Community Center and 262 acres is all part of the possible purchase that the Free Market Venture people are proposing they will do, and that we will one day get back the Kula Community Center. Right now we have a the end of a 50-year lease is going to be 2030, I think, and it's $1 per year. And so I've always said, okay, why do we want to buy something if it's only $1 per year for us, right? Because I represent you, the taxpayer. But here we are. We have a situation where we could possibly get it a little bit earlier with this agreement. So at this time, Director, you want to say a few words?
Sure. Is this working? Okay, good. Hi, everybody. Well, I'm really pleased that you're all here tonight to hear about this, because it's really important to get input from the community and help you understand, what this is about. At its heart, it's a water purchase agreement, and so this is an agreement that basically says if Free Market Ventures is able to drill these wells, the county will buy all the water that they produce, and that's the heart of the agreement. And I've done a number of these in other locations. In my opinion, this is a pretty good one in terms of the county's, the position that it puts the county in. So I'm going to just kind of walk you through a few of my thoughts on this agreement and the situation. So, the first question is, do we want additional water upcountry? That's the first question. And then if so, what are the alternatives? And as you all know, right now, there's not enough reliable supply to meet the demand upcountry. And we experienced that last October, right? The demand upcountry is an average is about 6 million gallons a day. Last summer, it was up, in the summer, it was up to about 8 million gallons a day because people use more water in the summer. Our supply was only at 6, and so we were short 2 million gallons a day, and it wasn't raining. And so we got very close to not having enough water last October and November. Then luckily it rained. My concern always is some year it may not rain, and we're overly dependent on surface water upcountry. So if it doesn't rain, we're in trouble in a hurry. So beyond the county need, beyond the kind of the current county needs, which again are about 6 million gallons per day, maybe 8 in the summer, there's also the needs if the meter list is processed. That's another few million gallons a day. There's also the need if upcountry is built out. And there's also the needs for Hawaiian homelands. And they say their needs are about 9 million gallons a day on top of what the county needs are. So if you look at the entire need upcountry, it's 2 times, maybe 3 times more than the reliable supply. So my position has been, I need all the water I can find. So then what are the alternatives? As part of the consent decree, the Haiku consent decree, the county can't drill wells in Haiku until we satisfy the consent decree. But one of the provisions of the consent decree says that we have to look at all the different possibilities for water upcountry and central. And we have a consultant who's been doing that. And they're well into their study. Their analysis currently is showing that the best source upcountry other than Haiku wells is a deep well upcountry, which is what this is. So they looked at all the possibilities and they basically said, this is a really good possibility for future water. The other options would be if we need wells, then the county could drill them. And so that's clearly the other thing that could happen, and we're in the process of looking at drilling some wells. What I like about this agreement is all the risk on drilling the well rests with Free Market Ventures. If the county were to drill a well and it was unsuccessful, we would have put all that money in the well, and then if it didn't work, well, then we're out that money. In this case, we only have to buy the water if the well is successful. And if it's not successful, the county doesn't have to do anything. So that's a pretty big plus. Again, it is a take or pay agreement, and that's really common. In fact, every water purchase agreement that I know of has that, which basically says we have to take a certain amount of water. In this case, it's all the water from the wells. What's a little different about this also is that typically water purchase agreements are from a big water producer that's selling it to a whole bunch of different people. And so they have these agreements with each one of their potential customers. In this case, the only customer for this well, or these wells if there are more than one, is the county. So all the water goes to the county unless the county someday decides they don't want it. So that basically, this water is all for upcountry residents, basically, for the county. Then the question is it, what's the pricing? How's the pricing work out? I'll talk about that. But first, in terms of the free market venture proposal, talk about that. Well, the other option is that the county can buy out the system. So after the wells are drilled, and it's been operating for a while, if the county says, we don't want to pay you anymore, we want to own the system, the county can buy out the whole system. And then it will become entirely a county infrastructure, and the price for that would be established by a third party that would evaluate the system. The county could then buy out the system. So it could ultimately be the county. The project also includes a solar field to completely power the wells. So the wells would be completely powered by solar with battery backup and generator backup for when needed, for when the solar is not available. So all that's again on free market. They're developing the entire power system to power the wells. And one of the pluses is that power system and the wells are integrated. It's one system. The only thing this power, the solar field would be powering is the wells. And so it's designed specifically for the wells. The other big advantage to the county is Free Market Ventures is capitalizing this entire project, where they're putting the money up front. So I have a capital budget, and my capital budget this year was $10 million. I'm proposing one next year that's in the $20 million range. One of these wells will cost $30 million. So, look at how much money I have available to drill wells versus a private company doing that. It's going to be really difficult for us to come up with the money to capitalize these wells. They're doing that. In terms of the cost, so this has been an interesting, do I want to go there? Yeah, let's see. Yeah, in terms of the cost, so then how much is this going to cost? And what's going to be the impact on ratepayers? And the interesting thing is, that's actually an interesting question to answer because it depends on a lot of assumptions that you have to make. And it's easy to do the numbers, but the question is, what do you assume? So what do I mean by that? Well, it's pretty easy to figure out how much it's going to cost us to buy the water. That's established. So much per gallon, that's how much we pay for it. It's pretty easy to establish how much we have to pay for the energy. Right? That's how much energy it takes to power the wells. And there's a fairly small cost for the land. That's the easy part. But then the question is, and we know what that is, how much money that is. Then the question is, how do you treat the infrastructure that we need to build to connect the wells to the county system, right? Should that be considered part of this project, or is it just something we would need anyway? So for example, to build these wells, you would want to have a storage tank, right? So a storage tank has a certain cost. If you include that in the cost of this project, it looks like it costs more, and maybe that's what should be done. I have a different approach to that, which is we need storage upcountry anyway. So as long as it's storage in a location that is advantageous and beneficial, I consider that to be a sunk cost, something we should do anyway. So that's maybe a difference between the assumptions that people looking at this might make. Does that infrastructure belong to this project, or is it just something we would do anyway? And then the second thing that's tricky is how much do you save by having these wells? And here's where it gets really tricky, because the purpose of these wells could be three different possibilities. One possibility is they're the base load for upcountry, right? And that's going to happen. If it's a take or pay, we're always going to have to take the water. So in that case, under some circumstances, you're really then not having to supply that water from other sources. So this water, you're going to have to pay for this, but then you're saving money because you don't have to bring water in from another source. And so that should be subtracted away from the cost because that's money you're saving. And there's you could calculate that in different ways, right? So it can be a little tricky now. How much of that do you really save because of these wells? And then, so the second purpose of these wells would be to manage a shortage. Like last October, we just didn't have enough water. So these wells then would enable us to not have a shortage, right? So what's the value of that, right? I think it's a lot, right? Because then, last October, if it had rained, we would have not had water for fire control. We would not have water. Some people in Upper Kula would not have had water if it didn't have rain. So by having an additional source, you're providing this filling the gap to some degree, and maybe to a large degree, between not having water and having water. So the price of a shortage is really high, and these wells would fulfill that to some degree, maybe to a large degree. Then there's the third possibility. The third thing these wells can be used for is new meters, right? So these wells could be used, and I propose it would be used to some degree to allow us to start working through the meter list, which right now we can't do. There just isn't enough water. So what's the value of that? Well, that's the value of allowing additional residential development, additional property tax, and so on. So there's an advantage to that. And then the tricky part is, of those three things, right, the base load, helping us in a shortage, providing new water for development, how much of this water is going to be used for each one of those? And it's going to vary every year depending on how much it rains and what other factors there are. So you have to make some assumptions about how much of it's going to be used for those various functions. So let me get down to the cost. I put forward a cost at the council meeting so somebody say, okay, this is going to have to be paid for. Everybody pays the same water bill in Maui County. So this basically, the cost of this would increase everybody's bill across the county. So even though upcountry is 20% of the county, it's 100% of the county that pays for all of our water improvements, right? So then you calculate, well, how much of a rate increase would you need to cover the cost of these wells if they're successful? And at the council meeting, I said each well would cost about 2.1% of an increase. So if the water bill is a certain amount, increase that by 2.1%, that's how much it would be for the first well. Thanks to a lot of input by Carl and Dick and others, I think I was a little low. So my current estimate is around 3%. So I listened to them and said, okay, I probably should have looked at it a little differently. So we're looking at about, in my calculation, about 3%. So each well would be a 3% increase. I think others have said more like 5%. We'll never know. We won't know until we build them. But again, it depends on the assumptions you make about those things that I talked about earlier. So then, I have to then couch that in the fact that last year, the council adopted a 10% rate increase at my recommendation. Thank you, council, for doing that. It hadn't had a rate increase for a long time. Nobody likes a rate increase. I'm proposing another 10% rate increase this year. I think we need 4 of them, right? I did have to say about the rate increases, the way they're structured is that the people who use the lowest amount of water, like I call it the lifeline amount, we're not touching those, or touching them very little. It's the people who use the excess water that we're charging more to. So if it's just somebody who's a single family and they're only using, and they're conserving water, their water bill won't go up much at all. But it's the big water users that we're hitting with the increases. And so when I went to council last year, I said, why do I need a 10% rate increase? Well, it's obviously inflation. But beyond that, it's really for 2 main purposes. One is to deal with the infrastructure. Our infrastructure needs work. And the second reason I need these rate increases is for new water sources, right? Well, that's exactly what this is. This is using part of that 10% that we got last year, and we're proposing to get for exactly what I think we need to use it for, which is to develop new water sources. So then, I just have to say that, beyond, we can have the battling spreadsheets on how much this is going to cost, and I've got my spreadsheet, they've got their spreadsheets, and there's some disagreements, but that to me is just part of the story. That's an important part of the story, but the story goes way beyond that, because these wells could help us with, as I said, during a shortage, what's the value of having enough water? It's a lot. Certainly, obviously, fire suppression. We want to have, and one of the advantages of where these wells are is they would provide additional water at a part of the system that can likely be cut off for a variety of reasons, so it's a kind of a nice place to have storage and additional source to fight fires in that area. And then what are the economic considerations? Well, there's obviously the construction that would occur during the period, which has a value. Money's coming in Maui from outside. Then there's the value of being able to have people have their homes and people getting off the meter list. And if by having enough water, you can also deal with agriculture uses and Department of Health and Homeland uses and greenway, parks and everything. So it has an economic value beyond what the spreadsheets show. And the other big thing is the speed. If the county were to drill these wells, first of all, I'm not sure we could do them any cheaper. Counties, it tends to cost county more to do things than private companies. We have procedures and policies and everything. But I can tell you, it's going to take a lot longer. The county process would take many more years. They're talking about in the order of 2 years to get these wells in. And we're working on county wells, and we plan to put in some of our own in the same general area. Ours aren't going to be done in 2 years, I can tell you that. It's going to take many more years than that. So there's a speed issue. And then finally, there's the issue of getting outside funding, which I think is not insignificant because as part of the wildfires and just in general, we're looking at how we get federal funding to help us because we need a lot of help. And one of the things that the federal government looks at in determining who gets funding, it's their competitive processes, is they love public-private partnerships. So if you come forward with a public-private partnership, you have a better chance of getting outside funding. And that funding can be used either to improve the county infrastructure. They can't use it because they're a private company, but we could use it for this connection for the infrastructure. And if we want to buy them out someday, then they potentially could be federal funding for that. So I think that's not insignificant. So that really is what I want to say. We do have, I guess I just want to say that this is now the agreement that went out today. This is very close to final. We think it's final. And the input that we've got from Carl and Dick and others, I think we've incorporated it all in here. They can speak for themselves that they read it. I know they just got the last version today, so it's probably not fair to ask them everything yet. But we've listened to them very carefully. I think we've accommodated all of their concerns, and I think to their satisfaction began. I'll let them speak for that. But we've definitely listened to them. There's significant changes here that have benefited the county. It's really been helpful to have their comments and really appreciate them. So, and if there's other comments, we can always take a look. It's not final until the council approves it. And our attorneys, Caleb, has been very helpful too. Thank you, Caleb, for working through this. I'm not sure what I had to say, and so I guess I'll turn it over to you guys. Do you have anything you want to say? If not, we can just take questions. I will turn it back to, yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, sure. Jack and Mike.
You might want to talk about time.
Yeah, well, I'm Jack Bach. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. We're basically a development company out of Chicago, and Free Market Ventures is a company I started about 13 years ago. Prior to that, I was at my dad's company called the John Bach Company, and I'm actually transitioning back. And the reason that's important is the John Bach Company is a world-renowned development company. It's done very highly technical, very big, prestigious projects, and so we're going to have an amazing team sort of overseeing this. But as far as who does the work, it's going to be the local drillers and the local contractors. We're just kind of the way like the quarterback or the symphony orchestra to make sure you got to put all the team together. We got to raise the money. We got to coordinate with all the architects and engineers. So it is a very complex project, and so we're going to have a very world-class team running it. And so a lot of people, obviously I'm not from here, so that always causes concern, especially any project anywhere you go that causes concern. So I'm here to answer any questions about anything about us or just the project in general. A couple of things I would like to add in when we met with Dick and Bobby, and they had only seen this on I think it was February 28th or something. We actually didn't get control of the project until February 21st. So there was a long history. The previous owner, everyone thinks this is a very rushed project because we've actually been it's been public only for about a month or so. Well, I didn't really have control over it, so I couldn't bring it public. we've been working on this for over a year and a half. The previous owner unfortunately got foreclosed on, and so it had to go through a foreclosure process. And so he actually built a test borehole down, I think in 2018. So he was working on this for many, many years. So this is not necessarily a new project. I'm bringing it forward as a new project, but this has been something that's been in the works for a very long time. Unfortunately, he ran out of money, it failed, and so that's how we got involved. And so that I want to address that for the time. You know, we're not like springing this on anybody. This has been in the works. We actually met with John and the mayor about a year ago and introduced the concept, knowing that I hopefully was going to be able to get the project under our control. So we couldn't make it public until I did that. So I want to kind of clear the air on that. I'm happy to answer questions on that as well. The other thing about this property is very, very unique. John touched on it a little bit, but it's 272 acres. And part of our agreement with the county is we're going to allow them to use any portion of the land that they need to do storage tanks, to run pipes, all sorts of stuff. And so we're really giving up a lot of potential development opportunity on this. So we're not here to do like a massive housing community. If we don't get this project and someone else does buy the land, that's a very high possibility they would want to keep the water for themselves, which happens a lot on this island. We're committed to sell 100% of it to the county. So I just want to point that out, that's, a future owner, if it's not us, will probably have a whole different idea of what they want to do with this land. And I think, I don't know if there's any, oh yeah, in the community center. Part of this property, there's an additional 8 acres, which is the Kula Community Center. And so when we purchased that, when we spoke with the mayor, that's obviously a huge concern for this community. I heard a story, and I don't know if this is true, that Larry Ellison, when he bought Lanai, basically had a similar thing where they had a ground lease, and when the ground lease ran out, he just kept it. And I'm like, we are not going to be those people. So part of this agreement is we are donating the community center after we get the second well done. Our original idea was for them to buy it at cost. Where we have to pay $720,000, so that's what we proposed. They asked if we could just donate it, and so we've agreed to do that as part of this agreement. So, yeah, or they could buy it at that $720,000. So if they want to buy it tomorrow, or as soon as we close, they can. But if you're going to get it for free in a couple of years, they have about 26 years left on the lease. So why pay for it if you don't have to? Is my thinking, but. And also just the nature of the land, one of the main lines for the county water system actually has an easement through the property. So for them to be able to connect here is actually very easy, and I know you touched on that a little bit. That's a huge advantage to this. And then the upper line is only a few hundred feet in the road right above our property. So they can connect to both the upper and the lower lines, and this is obviously its own separate water system. So they're very excited about it for some of the reasons and just the place that it is. As far as anything else, I'm really here to answer any questions you have. Michael's a retired attorney. He's really my partner on the deal too, so he can answer any questions you want.
Yeah, I just want to mention one other thing, because I'm out of there. So the question is, what's going to be the infrastructure needed to connect these wells to the county system, and what is going to be needed in the county system to take this water, because the water is going to have to go in some degrees the other direction. Right now it all flows kind of north to south, and with these wells in place, you'd be able to have some of the water flowing south to north. And so we have a consultant, Crowler Engineering, who's working on that. I just met with him today to kind of get the update, and it's feasible. It's not that difficult, and so some of you may know we actually have 3 separate water systems up country. We have the upper Kula, the lower Kula, and the Makawa system. And this is actually, that pipe he was talking about is the lower Kula system, which is the middle one. And there's enough demand in that system, even at the lowest day, to take all the water from the first well. So all we need for the first well is a storage tank and a connection, and some pressure relief valves and stuff. To go to the second and third well, we need to be able to pump up or pump down, and so we're looking at what that takes. And the piping's there, it's just a matter of some revisions to the plumbing, basically, to be able to make the water flow the other direction. So I think that's important that we are looking at that, and it looks like it's quite feasible, and certainly within the time frame. So, I should mention that. This agreement that we've got that's going to council next week is only for one well. So again, the county has all the control, in my opinion, in this contract. We are obligating under this agreement to take all the water from one well if they can drill it. If they can't drill it, we don't have to do anything. And we have the option for a second well, and an option for a third well, and an option for a fourth well, but only if we decide we want it. Now, my opinion is, if this is successful, we're probably going to want the second well, because you always want to have a second well there. And maybe the third well, it'll all depend on how other things unfold over the next years. So that's a good point.
Thank you. So I wanted Dick Mayer, who is also a member of the Kula Community Association, he made it very clear to me he's speaking in his own behalf, and he's not speaking in behalf of Kula Community Association. And Carl Friedman here, who is an expert with contracts and really dissected the free market venture agreement with us and came up with a lot of questions. So I wanted to know if you could just speak briefly so we don't go overboard. Don't speak as long as you want.
I need somebody to run the PowerPoint. Jennifer? Can you...
No, this is our computer.
Yep.
She has to turn it on.
Right.
And then once it's up, then yeah.
Okay.
She's coming.
Let me at least introduce myself. As Yuki Lei said, I've been a resident upcountry for 54 years. I've been involved with a lot of planning issues over the years. I taught at the college till I retired. And I put together this PowerPoint. I do want to thank Yuki Lei for having us all here today. When this first came up, nobody knew about it at all. All of a sudden we found out about it. And she's gone out of her way to make sure that the community gets informed. The Water Board knew nothing about this. And again, it's because we pushed. The Water Board finally last week had a meeting on this. They're required by county ordinance to look at these things, and they hadn't done it yet. And all of a sudden, they were asked to do it, but they were only given a few hours with the agreement, so they really did not have a chance to really go into it in depth, and that's what I hope to do today. Okay, can you? Okay. Very quickly, I'm going to cover a number of areas, and I'm just going to outline what I'm going to cover. The overall costs, the water rates, the money outflows, alternatives to the system, this option, an unknown developer, up at the upper right, secrecy, the microgrid, which has rarely been discussed, the rushed timetable, the special benefits, the rural ambience, and finally legality of the whole operation. Next. Okay. I'm not going to go through this in any detail, but I want to indicate some of the considerations that you will need to know whether this is costly or not costly. And on here you'll see the first item is the water cost. The county will have to buy this water at $5.95 per 1,000 gallons. That compares, for example, right now we get water from East Maui at 6 cents, 1/100th of it. We get water from Wailuku Water Company at 50 cents, and this is $5.95 just to buy the water. But the water isn't available until you pump it up from sea level, and it's going to be it's very expensive to pump it up because they're charging a very high amount for the electricity, 33 cents per kilowatt hour from this solar farm, and that compares with the electricity being sold by the solar farms we already have in Maui. For example, down in the middle of Maui, the AES system is going online for about 9-10 cents per kilowatt hour. There's also land cost and a number of other costs that will be required. The overall cost in the lower right-hand corner, if you can see it, would be around $12.87 per 1,000 gallons. That's a lot of money, and that does not include any of the infrastructure that John was talking about. And that's only the first year. In addition, each year, and something he didn't mention, the prices all go up 3% cumulatively, so that by the end of the 30 years, the prices will have gone up a very large amount. Next slide. The 1287 that I mentioned, and here we have a comparison where at present, the water rates that you're paying start up there, for example, people using 0 to 5,000 gallons pay $2.13. They now, the cost of the county with 1287, they're going to lose over $10 per 1,000 gallons. And you can go down the list here and see all the rates, ag rates, similarly. So in every case, at least $4.75 will be lost on every 1,000 gallons that the county sells. That's what I mean by being expensive. Next. The take-or-pay clause in the agreement means that the county will have to take every bit of water. Let's say we have a period of time in the winter where it rains and there is not much of a need for water. The county will still have to pay for all the water coming up at full rate, full cost, and if they don't take it, the owners of this project will be able to sell it to whomever they want out in the community. Perhaps a new development will go in, something that they can help sponsor, but it will be very expensive, that they will be double dipping. They'll get the money from selling it privately as well as from the county. Next. Over the years, the 1287 that I mentioned will probably rise, because of that 3% rise, to somewhere around $26 per thousand. The water charge is $5.95, electricity 33 cents. The land cost, which I didn't mention earlier, is $20,000 per acre each year. And the cost rise at 3% for 30 years, so that by the end of the 30 years, down at the bottom, the $5.95 will rise to $14, and the 33 cents will be 78 cents per kilowatt hour. So when John says these rates may go up 2 or 3%, already this year, the county budget, which came out this week, is proposing the rate increases from 0 up to 30%. There'll be some rates that will go up 30%. So already they're building in increasing the water rates. Next. In addition to all the things I mentioned before, the developer is getting 50% of all the source water fees for 30 years. So as water comes in line from these projects, the county will have to pay. They usually charge people for their meters. The developer, in this case, would get half of that money. It wouldn't go to the county. Next. Cost to the ratepayers. Right now, for example, ag water rates are $1.19. You may not know it, but the new proposal by the mayor is raising those rates 20% for ag water in the next year, for those of you who are farming. And these losses for each 1,000 gallons are very high and growing, and what will the ratepayer need to pay to justify the system, support the system? Next. The infrastructure that I mentioned includes things like pumps, trenching to put the pipes in, pipes themselves, the connections, and probably multiple water tanks both above and below the wells. Next. Millions of dollars will be flowing out of Maui. This company will be able to make very large amounts of money, as opposed to, let's say, Haleakala Ranch having done this. It doesn't have to be an outside private company. It could be a local private company. They have large amount of land. They could be doing it, and all the money would stay on the island rather than going away. By keeping it on the island, it multiplies through our local economy. This is very much like the big hotels, which make huge amounts of money on Maui and take that money away. Yes? What are some of the alternatives? We could have reservoirs so that during the rainy season, it could be trapped, the water could be collected and utilized. It could be at lower elevations or higher. We could have lower elevation wells. They don't have to be always up this particular one will eventually put water into the upper system at the elevation of 3,900 feet. Local landowners could do it, and the East Maui Water Authority has not been mentioned. Next. The East Maui Water Authority has not been mentioned at all, either in any of the discussions, and the East Water Authority is just getting going, but they will be getting control of all of the water that comes out of East Maui in the ditches. And that water we're talking about there, in the old days, 160 million gallons a day was flowing out of there. It'll be much reduced now, probably in the order of 30, 40 million, so that they can replenish the streams. And they will go to Mahipono, and it can all be made available also for domestic use and farming use upcountry. That would be an excellent source, and already that well, the water ends up in near Haile Maile at 1,100 feet elevation. So that'd be 1,100 feet that would not have to be pumped up. That's all gravity flow to that location. Next. I feel that this was very done, as I mentioned, for a year and a half. I've been working on it. They said they couldn't mention it, but even so, no effort was made to come to the community at large to show what this is about. Even the county council, in their effort, put it in a resolution. The agreement wasn't on the agenda. It was more a resolution to get the agreement approved. And you had to really scour the county council's committee agendas to even know that this was even coming up. There's no TMK. Several people ask me, where is this located? There should be a TMK on the agreement, and it should have been in the publicity, so that neighbors nearby could know that this was going on. I still think that the people on the nearby road, Kamehameha and some of the other roads in the area, do not even know that this is going on, yet there may be a generator that could be causing lots of noise. Certainly when they're drilling the wells, there'll be a lot of noise from those, and it may affect them in other ways as well. No knowledge to the community because there's no identification as to where this is going to be taking place. And every contract within this statement in the agreement says every contract within this agreement must be hidden from the public. So if they start making contracts with various local people and others, that's all hidden. The general public would not know about it. Next. We do not know who the microgrid investors are. We were told, according to the developer, and this is a quote I'm quoting from them, the microgrid funders are different from the well financiers and have different return horizons. We have no idea who they are, what their background is, whether no due diligence has been done on them. They say they're going to be good. We have no idea, and that's something. This is a contract that will be in the hundreds of millions of dollars by the time all the payments are made over 30 years. We should know much more about the microgrid operators and what they're planning to do. Next. The microgrid is unknown. We don't know how big it will be in size, how much power it will have. We do not know anything about the generator, how large it will be, what kind of capacity it will be. Will it have to also reduce at certain times because they don't have enough solar energy for 2 days? We have a Kona storm and they can't pump. We know very little about it, and there's been no effort made to help us know this. These are important information that should be known to the council before they approve it. Next. Okay, we can skip that one. A rushed effort to get this agreement through. This went to the council at the end of February, and now they're telling us we have to get this approved very, very quickly by April 5, with very little ability by the general public to understand fully. And I so appreciate Councilmember Sugimura's effort to get you informed, but there's so many other people in our community who should really know about this effort. And we don't know anything really much more than the brief introduction we had today about who Free Market is and what experience they've had with water developments and organizing this. They may have a worldwide thing. They may have done something in Dubai, but that doesn't mean that it's relevant to what we're doing here on Maui. Next. Oh, by the way, and the company is not registered in Hawaii at this time. At least we were told that a few weeks ago. All conditions in the agreement favor the developer. John, water director, made the comment that this is so favorable to the county. That I would say that's not true. If you read the original agreement, we've managed to make a number of changes that now make it more in favor of the county, but there's still many things left out that could be done. And just some of them are trivial, some are important. For example, mediation. If there's ever a dispute, it has to be done off island. The spare parts, and parts can be kept anywhere in Hawaii, not on Maui. Things of that sort. Next. The legality of the whole process, and this is, I think, near the end. There was no RFP put out to see if anybody else was interested or could be competitive with this company, give us better rates and give us a better cost. That's really important. Procurement process. The county has a procurement process to buy all kinds of things. Police cars, desks, everything else. Here we have a hundreds of million dollar project, and there's no procurement process that went through. There were no competitive bids, and we're dealing with a single out-of-state private investor. I would urge caution, and if this is a good deal, it can wait a little while till we get answers to these types of questions. And I would hope that the council will listen and do that kind of a thing. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Mr. Dick Mayer. I can tell you appreciate what he said, right? So I want you to know that I'm going to ask the department if you want to say anything. As I was standing there with Caleb, he said, oh, we can add the tax back key to the agreement. That's no problem. So that'll happen. And I have the latest agreement that was released today, so I haven't had a chance to dissect it. Caleb, you want to say anything? Or he said he would only speak if you think he needs to.
Hi, so just touching on a couple of things. There was mention of the East Maui Water Authority. The East Maui Water Authority has been formed, however, it's contingent upon them applying for a lease and receiving a lease from the BLNR. They are currently not the leaseholder. So, you know, just on that matter, it's unclear whether or not the county's even going to be able to have access to water from that mechanism. And in addition, as terms of the lease, they limit the amount of water that can be taken out of the ditch system. So that's one thing to think about. Regarding the RFP process, you know, the request for proposal process is really what's done for county-initiated projects on county property. This project is not initiated by the county, and it is not on county property. So we don't believe that this is required to go through the normal RFP process. This is what would be considered a sole source, meaning that there's basically one person is making an offer to us. And so that's how we're proceeding with it. There were a few other things, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. I'll let other people speak if they would like.
I want to humanize this a little bit, right? We were involved in this property, and the guy that was originally going to build it was going to put houses on it. And I'm a public-private partnership guy, right? I'm a believer in this. I think it's a really good process to interface with the public and public officials and private capital and developers. And you get everybody together, and they take a really cool asset, which is this little piece of property. It's a big piece of property. And so when you talk about, hey, we should go get water from somewhere else, when I looked at this property, I started working on this a couple years ago, I saw this as a water farm, right? And I thought it was a really neat opportunity for this island and for the area. As we said, it's got two main lines running right next to it, and it's got something really, really special. And that's that the guy that was trying to work on it and build houses on the site went out and spent millions to put in a test well. And he took it down 3,200 feet on risk, on his own risk, and he failed. Like, that's risk. That's the risk that we're taking on. And so when he failed, he left an asset that tapped one of the largest aquifers, and the water guy, the driller, said it's a wonderful aquifer. It has the cleanest water in the world. It's got to be pumped way up, 3,200 feet, and it's hard to get. So Jack worked really hard to try to put this together, and we have a very limited time frame. So it's unfortunate that we're coming quickly, but we've had an enormous amount of interaction for this type of agreement. I think it's actually been I've done a lot of these agreements. I used to represent one of the largest builders of homes in the world, and every one of those projects requires a water supply, it needs a sewage supply, it needs a power supply. And most of the time, you go to the contractors, you go get that done, and you stick it in the ground, and you tell whoever it is, I'm going to build this. That's not what this agreement's been. This agreement has been kind of a regular interaction over months to take concerns that people have expressed, to change the agreement, to make sure in almost every instance the county has optionality. right? So the county can pick how many wells it wants to use. The county can decide to pay the meter charge if it wants to, or it can buy out the meter charge. The county doesn't even have to put meters out, right? The county can say, look, we need fire suppression, we need redundancy, we need safety more. And so the whole agreement is just set up so that the property can be purchased and we can attract the capital to build it. And so you talk about the microgrid being problematic. The microgrid is it's a common power source when somebody like HECO can't provide power. HECO power is 40 cents a kilowatt. This is 33 cents a kilowatt. And so when you say this is a solar field, this isn't even a solar field. It's a microgrid energy system, which means it's got full batteries. It may have cogeneration, meaning it may capture heat coming out of the pump and then recycle that. And it will have diesel generators that have to be driven in the morning to start it very quickly, pulls the water up for 3,200 feet, and then the solar grid runs. And then we talked a little about you should know all the answers to all these things. We can't know the answers, right? You've got to bring in engineers to go build this entire system. They've got to build the microgrid. They've got to plan it and design it. You've got to figure out where the director wants to put all his infrastructure. He mentioned the option for an infrastructure. We've got a really big land site that we're giving the county kind of carte blanche discretion to put their infrastructure wherever they want to put it. So to say this project needs to be fully completed now is premature. We can't have spent $10 million, $20 million to design, build, install, make it, put it all together and hand it over to the county and say, do you want it? Right? That you can't do that because no one would invest their capital that way. So instead, what we're doing is we're offering in a partnership with the county to bring this land, to jointly try to develop it, to give the county optionality so they're never in a position where they're in trouble. And I don't know, that's what I would just say. I'm just kind of surprised that there was after having all the discussions we had, to have this kind of a presentation is odd. So.
And I want to add one thing. On the 6 cents, just, the price of water in a water ditch that we currently pay for is 6 cents per thousand. That's true. That was a price that was set many, many years ago, and it was basically giving the county the water because the water was going by and they had plenty of water. So they gave the county a really good price at 6 cents. What's the future going to look like? Well, we talked about that. There's not going to be as much water in the ditches. There's desire to leave it more in the streams. There's less rainfall. So the 6 cents is not going to happen in the future. It's just it's a relic of the past. It was a great opportunity for the county to get the water when they did. I don't think that's going to continue in the future. So I'll leave with that and be glad to answer any questions. That's it, Mark.
Jordan. So Jordan Haley works in my office, and he has helped me when we've had community meetings. So Jordan, can you come and help us with the questions? Or Carl, did you want to say a few words before? No? Okay, no questions. Okay, here's Jordan Haley, and he can direct it. Just know that I would imagine many of you have many questions, and we don't have enough time to do all of them, so we can do written.
Hey, yeah, so we'll just bring the microphone around so we can hear you online as well. I think the easiest way is we'll have folks come up. I'll have the microphone over here instead of, I know a lot of you have questions, so I think the easiest way is to just kind of come up and, we'll make a line. You don't have to run up at once. We've got the room for another hour or so. So I'll kind of just hang out over here, and then we can go, and we'll limit it to about 3 minutes per person. Obviously, we just ask that folks, if you have a similar question that's already been answered, feel free to give up your spot in line. I will be over here, folks, on my right. Thanks. And we'll go through it that way. I think that's the easiest way, just in terms of logistical constraints, and then we'll open it up to the floor, whoever is best suited to answer that, and then we'll keep going. So if you could just mention your name, and then we can go on the answer, and then we'll keep it moving.
Yeah. First of all, Lou Zabo, Lunapankula. Thanks everyone for all the information. Thanks Ukulele for putting this together. Ukulele. Simple technical question. When a current water system changes sources, this happened in Flint, Michigan. Disaster happened because the water chemistry changed. Have you guys looked at what's going to happen when we go from a well or a surface water to well system? and what that effect, negative effect it may have on the current system?
Sure. The answer is yes. We understand what the differences might be. Of course, we currently have wells for most of the central system and about 25% of the upcountry system. So it already does have well water, and it already is mixed with surface water. If this were to go through, it would be a higher percentage of well water. The adjustment that you need to make for that is really a simple pH adjustment, which is an easy process to implement. So before we would connect the systems, we would make sure that the pH was adjusted so that you wouldn't have corrosive water and it would damage the system. So we would that's definitely on the, something we would make sure we would do before we would connect the system. And a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Director. If I could just ask the gentleman sitting up here, we just had a request from some folks that maybe weren't here for the beginning of the meeting, didn't hear the introductions, the folks maybe tuning in a little bit later, getting home on Akaku. If we could just have you folks just introduce yourselves one more time, and then we'll get back to the questions. That way everybody's kind of up to speed, and then we can continue on with the questioning.
So I'm John Clean Water Director.
I'm Jack Black. I'm the developer.
I'm Michael Smith. I'm partners with Jack.
Dick Mayer, and I'm a current upcountry resident.
I'm Caleb. I'm John's lawyer.
I'm Doug Sheehan. I'm with the Kula Community Association. John, this is for you. It's similar to what Lou had to say, but we have the upper system uses chloramines, where the lower system uses chlorine, and I know you folks are very adamant about not mixing those two systems. So if this well comes online at 3,200 feet, is there going to be any sort of a treatment system also that has to be put in? And if so, what type would that be?
Sure, that's a good question. So regardless of whether this project occurs, we are going to change the upper system to free chlorine so that all three systems use the same disinfectant. The fact, oh, I got a little pause. I didn't think that would happen. So, the fact that one uses a different disinfection is just a bad practice, period. And so we've actually engaged already consultants to help us. There's what we need to do on the upper system, because the water that comes into the upper system is an unusual organic mix because of where it comes from, and that's why they use chloramines up there. But there's other pre-treatment processes that you can use so that you can use the free chlorine so that all the systems will be on the same system. And that, again, we're going to do that regardless of whether this project occurs.
Hi, Jeffrey Pazer. I'm a resident of Kula. I also own property on the last stream where EMI, now Maui Pono, also extracts water from. That's the Makapipi River at mile 25. I know there were some conversations about, East Maui water. The fact is that if they haven't already given them a new 30-year lease, they've done so without requiring that they do anything to upgrade their system. I believe that is another alternative way of getting much more water for Kula, is to require, as a precondition to giving them a lease, to require that they improve the system. They are losing tens of millions of gallons a day of water, transporting it on a system that's over 100 years old. A question for Free Market Capital. I believe, are you a private equity, a venture capital firm?
I'm just a developer. I raise projects project by project.
And do you raise it with venture capital?
All different. Sometimes it's individual, sometimes.
Is there a prospectus for this where any one of us here could invest in this project?
If you want to invest, we'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you fully funded yet to do this?
No, because I'm not sure we have a project.
And one quick comment that the gentleman in the blue shirt made about this project not requiring an RFP. That to me is absurd. This is something that is going to affect every resident on Maui, everyone's budget on Maui, whether they can pay for their rent, their cell phones. Water bills are extraordinarily high, and to say this doesn't have to be put, an RFP doesn't have to be done it's a wound to the people of Maui that the public not be more involved in this.
Thank you. I think it was explained, and I want to stand by what Caleb Rowe said. This is not county land. If it was our land, Mr. Pazer, we would put out an RFP. We would definitely do things correct.
Project by the dump's not county land either, but you want to take it and not do a private-public partnership.
That is not in discussion tonight, but that is our land. We own the Central Maui landfill, and I don't want to have a fight with you tonight.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question.
My name is Steve Allen. I have a little bit of knowledge of water and pumps and flow. My one question, though, is about this microgrid. If I produce electricity under a photovoltaic, and you said it was possible cogeneration, I'll only get paid 12 cents a kilowatt from Maui Electric, or the HEI. According to what was shown, and I didn't do the math, at the end of the term, you're getting 73 cents a kilowatt. That's 6 times what I'd get paid if I created it. And yet that's what you're going to sell it to me for. I can't quite see where, as a PUC requires me as a utility to have regulated profit margins, and yet this is private equity, and there isn't one, except for an agreement made that shows some questions.
Yeah, I can just address that briefly. The initial price is 33 cents a gallon, 33 cents a kilowatt hour, and it goes up 3% a year. And so if you look at any price going up 3% a year over 30 years, it gets really big in 30 years. And so we'll look at, the rates will go up, everything will go up. And the county then has the option, as we said, if we think it's getting too high, of buying them out. So that is the option that the county has in that situation. Did you want to add?
We also have it reserved for maintenance, repair, and replacement. And so that 3% charge goes into the replacement of the system. And it also,
There are solar farms.
and it covers batteries and other things. And so we actually don't know what the, I'll just leave it at that. I don't know that the 3% charge is not considered by us to be a profit center.
Well, there's solar farms all over the state of Hawaii, and they have 20-year agreements for the same rate at 8 cents and 10 cents selling price to the utility company, which is controlled by the PUC. I'm just not going to buy the other story. I mean, if private equity can do 8 cents long term, I would think you could too.
Yeah, let me add to that. The present solar companies on Maui, a number of them, I think, are selling it at a fixed rate with no inflation factor built in. And that's why this one is particularly expensive, I believe, compared to what could be done alternatively. Thanks.
Yeah, hi, John Cahill. I live in Lower Kula. I was concerned when I started Googling your company. It seemed like a capital-based company rather than a construction company, and you're saying that you're going to use all local contractors. I'm involved in a subdivision that has a well. We find it very difficult to get any work done from local contractors. I think they're all overworked already. So I'm a little concerned about somebody coming in offering to do a giant project like this without a construction wing to their company and claiming that they're going to use local contractors. We've all come to trust Dick over the years to keep his eye on things for us. So if his numbers are anywhere near accurate, the costs per thousand are going to be way beyond what any of us can afford before very long at all. And it seems like if there is a buyout clause to it, it will be based on those numbers. It seems like if someone was going to, there can be a third party determining what that cost should be, and we were to decide to buy it out, we would have to buy it out, if I understand the economics of it, at what those projected, what the revenue you would be giving up would be. And so it's not something we could probably ever afford to do.
I'll just remind you, I appreciate the comments. If we could just keep it to questions that we may get a response for. And if you do have any comments, we're happy to take that from you later, and we can take that down in an email. We can pass that along as well to some of our resource personnel. But we do want to make sure that folks that do have questions get a chance to get to those in the time remaining. So thank you.
Aloha, my name is Tony Eaton. I work for the DHHL, Department of Hawaiian Homelands. but I'm here representing myself. And sorry, Jordan, I have more questions. I already heard you guys spiel. I heard the director spiel. Caleb said this is a sole source contract. Didn't the county get into trouble with the somebody spending years, people spending years in prison because of sole source contracts? You guys never learned you guys' lesson. And then you guys gonna bring somebody in here that don't know nothing about our aquifers. They don't even know anything about how our aqua system works. These guys are not the answer. Sorry, I'm not from our country, but you guys get all the farmers that you guys think you guys gonna get water from this, you guys gonna get the water meter list open. You're not going, because in the contract, the proposal, if you read them, it says that they have whatever excess water have, they can get the meters and they can build on this land. They're developers. You guys know, you're not one water person guy. I don't know what your name is over there. Yeah. You guys not in the business for give back to the community, or, you know, hey, we're doing you guys a favor because we're gonna open up this water list. No weenies. You guys will take all the meters. This is not the option, you guys. This is not the option. And one more thing, not a question, but back in 1876, King Kalakaua got into an agreement with A and B. This is all deja vu. They came in here with a 30-year lease. I get the paperwork, I get the pala if you guys like look at it. But they came here with a 30-year lease, and in that agreement, the king said that all improvements were to revert back to the government, which never happened because they overthrew our queen and they established a territory of Hawaii. Okay, so this is not the answer, guys. Don't fall into this trap. Mahalo. And Caleb, shame on you. Shame on you for saying, wait. Shame on you for push this on the people of Maui, knowing the history of Maui. This is not good legislation.
Hello. Oh my goodness. Okay. My name is William Pyle, Bill Pyle. My wife is Dorothy Pyle. She and I both put this together. She's a retired Hawaiian history professor from the college. I'm a retired ag engineer from HCNS. So I got to read this. I'm a retired professional ag and civil engineer. My Hawaii PE license is number 4146, if you like, check. My work experience on Maui started in 1967 as a junior engineer at HCNS. My experience has shown me that Maui's potable groundwater is virtually non-existent for potable water. I tell you, University of California civil engineering textbooks that I took, one of them, I tried to find it to bring it here, showed Maui's potable groundwater was virtually non-existent. You cannot compare Maui's groundwater resources to Oahu, where millions of years older than Maui, the rock substructure has settled to a point where the rainfall soaking in is easily captured and is made available to pumping for any community resource. Here, however, 1967, I'm a junior engineer going to work at the plantation, and they take me out. We like show you something. They took me to Well 7. It's right near the Humane Society. We went down this elevator to sea level, and at sea level, you could see high tide and low tide. This island is so porous that you get high tide and low tide with salt water in the middle of the valley. And these guys up here like to say that, oh, we can give you fresh water. Oh, yeah, right. Haleakala is geologically so young, the rock structure is such that the water drains quickly to sea level. Now, there may be a few spots that catch water, and if you happen to hit one, yes, you can get some fresh water. There's a few like that around there, but it's less than 1%. of the potable water on this island. Anything may be available at higher elevations like Kula is a gamble if you try and drill and pump. It will be tremendously expensive. It will mostly run out of supply very early in any year where we have our normal dry downwind summer trade winds. I want to know who did the research on this water resource availability, and where is this report? Who wrote it? And do they have any real experience in Maui's water resources? I doubt it. I've got 57 years of experience working in water as a professional engineer on this island, and I think they're full of it. That's what I think. Maui's reliable supply really is rain, and I've been working with the county trying to convince them to build more reservoirs, line them so they don't leak, and then have community storage tanks all through our communities. Where I live on Ali'i Street, we should have a storage tank. So when it gets low, pull from the tank. We should be doing that. I don't know. I'm done. Enough.
Hi, my name's Cassie Mallon, and I live in Pukalani. And when I first saw the notice that Yukile sent out, and I looked up Free Market Enterprises, and I wondered what kind of a company it was, and I noticed that it was in Chicago, and I wondered why they would want to come to Maui. And, just skimming, I didn't scrutinize their website, but everything was in Illinois. And then when I ran through, it seemed like every other paragraph talked about what a great return on investment they gave to all their investors and stuff. And I thought, well, the costs are just going to increase because they're going to want to pay their investors dividends. And I don't know about everyone else, but us in Pukalani are well aware of the private government thing with Hawaii Water Service with our sewer, and it does not work.
My name is Rosemary Banderas, born and raised in Kula, 71 years ago. Experience with the weather here on Maui. I spent my childhood every summer conserving water. Every single summer. We would save bath water to water the vegetables in the garden. It was that bad. My father always said, everybody, community bath, save the water or they'll take our water meter. You're talking about doing something that needs infrastructure. The Department of Water has not taken care of the infrastructure that we already have. There are pipelines in Kula that are decades old, before the 1950s, that have not been checked, not have been replaced, and the Department of Water is trying to get John Q. Public to replace their water lines and pay for it, when it's actually the responsibility of the people who are supplying our water lines, because they're not maintaining them. How are they going to afford to build new infrastructure when they can't take care of what we already have? And the word development came up, and everybody in Kula, their hair stood up on the back of their necks, and probably all of our country. There are so many local companies and so many local opportunities, and here's another company coming in from outside. And it's not fair to the people who are trying to maintain a living here. Yeah, a lot of them are now overworked. How are you going to do infrastructure when you have infrastructure needs in Lahaina? Got to take care of what we have before you start creating something that's going to take more money out of the state and out of the county.
Hi, Nicole McDermott of Country Kula. I'm a fairly new resident, meaning a decade versus 7 decades. And I'm very split on this issue, but there's a couple of things that I would like to know the answer to. Jack, Michael, are you general contractors?
No, we're developers, and so we always hire local general contractors wherever we are because you want the local expertise.
I've been a developer for 30 years. My husband's a licensed general contractor. That's how the developments get done and passed and permits get issued, because you know what you're doing. The next thing I'd like to know is, did the county ask any contractors to review the contracts that you were given by this company?
We did not ask any contractors to review it, no.
Okay, huge mistake. Are there penalties in there if they don't meet their schedule? Are there penalties in there if they use material that's not as good as what they spec'd in their RFP? Is any of that in there? I'm sorry, but only a contractor is going to know that. And with all the people and what I've seen come together when we had the Lahaina fires was, I'm originally from New York, and that was back when the World Trade Center got hit. That was the kind of movement I saw in Lahaina. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of what everybody did. I don't understand with all the people, and by the way, many contractors live up in Kula, and they also farm up in Kula. The farmers cannot afford this proposal. Why can't we get the contractors together and do it ourselves? Why can't we bond out the money? I don't understand. Why is that not even an option? Why hasn't anyone asked? We have all these people that have decades of knowledge, my husband included, and nothing. We're just going to let politicians and utility companies make decisions about things that they really don't know about. Sorry, I'm not necessarily in that. And I didn't see any, I'm sorry, Jack and Michael, I didn't see anything on your website that would tell me you're anything other than an investor. The property that you're talking about, did it go, do they currently own it, or is it just up for sale and the county's going to make a decision? Is it?
There was a public auction. Anybody in the world could have bid on it.
Right, so you bought it already, the land.
We're under contract.
Yeah, you're under contract. Okay. And I'd also like to know, since the International Building Code currently is 2021, I'm not sure what year Maui uses. Sometimes they're a couple of years back. And I'd like somebody to pay attention, because the new International Building Code should be coming out in 24. And I'd like them to pay attention that they don't build to 24 and then Maui sets them back to 21 or earlier, if this goes through. But I'm not necessarily rooting for it. I'm very sorry. I'm a developer. I know how it feels, but sorry.
I'm Nate Holmes, Nahalai Road. You guys talk about infrastructure and pipes that don't exist. I'm currently on catchment number 751 on a waiting list. And what I'm told is I have to spend $1.3 million to upgrade a county water line to get water to my house. And the government's supposed to put in utilities for us, and we pay the government for it. This system you guys are proposing seems like a really bad idea. I think you guys should get some more local input on this. Alpha Construction is a really good drilling company. I don't see you guys having any representative from anybody else but an outside mainland company that doesn't really have the interests of Maui.
We're talking to Alpha.
Yeah.
We're talking to Alpha.
I see the representatives here too, right?
No, we don't have the project yet. We're talking to them about very preliminary budgeting right now.
One more question. On this 262 acres that you guys have under contract, besides this water, how many houses do you guys plan to build there? What type of housing, and what other infrastructure you guys plan to do to take care of our country after you make more houses?
So we have limited the amount of the homes to be 21 on 272 acres. This is really an infrastructure project for the water, so we capped how many we could build, and that's in the contract.
And these are single family, affordable housing, what kind of housing?
Single family.
Okay. One more question. How can you guarantee the water quality that you guys are proposing to pump up?
Well, the water was tested by the previous owner, and we do have some reports from that. It's very high quality water, and by the way, it will go to the county. We'll have to treat it. But you might be able to answer that.
Well, also note that the agreement especially says that we'll only buy the water if it meets the quality standards.
One more thing, I think reservoirs and catchment systems to catch more of our rainwater would be a lot more efficient. It seems like I see a lot of rain damage and just water going. Catchment systems and reservoirs across the top of the mountain in green areas might be a little more affordable, and maybe the county can get off their butt and actually do something.
Let me just add something to the answer there. They're planning supposedly maximum of 21 units. I looked today in the agreement, I didn't see the wording, but the preliminary wording I saw was not acceptable, that they could also get a waiver and get it higher than that possibly through the water department. I'm not sure what the final wording has in there. But there's also a phrase in there that says they can put commercial on that land. And that commercial is something that's vague. It doesn't specify that the commercial is the solar farm, or is it something else? And we don't know what that is. That bothers me.
All right.
He knows that's not.
This is great. The land is currently platted for 20 homes, and our goal is to put wells on that land. And the more wells we put, the fewer homes go on the property. And our goal would be to have no development on the property. If we can get to, there may be agricultural uses, and we reserve the right for the county to control anything built on the land other than 21 homes. So, this is not intended to be a real estate development. It's literally intended to be a water supply contract. There may be some residual land that's available to be developed, in which case you probably want to do something with it. But we're not trying. That's not a substantive part of the project for us. I mean, it matters, but it's not the main project. So, I think people can rest assured that they're not going to have the wrong type of development. There was a lot of resistance to concentrated workforce housing. I don't know why, but there was. And so we've said we'll leave whatever gets developed there really within the discretion of the county. And we originally said DWS, and he raised it. He didn't want DWS to have control of that, so we said the county. So now the county has control of it.
Hi, I'm John L. Sullivan. Lived here before most of you were born. I'd like to invoke Rodney King. Can't we all just work together? I feel like most of you guys do from the applause. But it's hard to get people to put money into Maui for an investment. Worked for a company built Stillboat Worldwide. They built one building for Dillingham. They will not come back into the state of Hawaii. The behind-the-scenes going on throughout the state, not just in Maui, is more than investors want to deal with. The financial side of these guys looks a little off compared to what Mike Atherton did, but he had a lot of houses involved in his. But I think were they to look at their numbers and when they talk to Mike and see some of the plans that he had, things would have worked much better for them. And particularly with no community input before this was done with the county. It's sort of like things are done on Maui. The only good water that I know that's being pumped is in the vodka that you're drinking, and in Kula Metals, and in the Alpha development that's before them. But the water is very high quality, really wouldn't have to be treated. I have consumed it with no treatment and a little Parkinson's, but other than that, let's just try to work together to try to get somebody to get more water up here. But if you were a couple gulches over from the fire, you would have liked to see more water. Thank you.
My name is Anthony Cadiz. I live up in Kula, actually in Ulapalakua. My question is directed to the director. I am number 48 on the water meter list of 1,428 numbers. That water meter list has not been updated since January 1st of 2022. I have called the county water department and been advised that one water meter was issued during the year 2022. 2023, January, a new water meter list was supposed to be updated. It is now March of 2024. When will you be issuing additional water meters? How many water meters did you issue in 2023 and in 2024? One more follow-up question. We're told, and I've been listening closely, that in fact you're going to get some water meters out in the event that this plan comes to fruition. It seemed very, very vague to me whether the water was going to the county and then going to other parts of Maui as compared to it coming up country. So if you could clarify that.
Sure. So first of all, we issued 4 water meters in 2023. We'll update the list. And then we stopped. We stopped because there's not additional source. So we will not be issuing any more water meters until there's additional source. And we talked about where we can get that. This is one possibility. If this is not done, it'll have to wait till whatever other source can come along, which I think will be a lot longer, but that's where we came up. What we learned in October, for example, was there isn't enough source for the existing meters, let alone any new meters. So we'll update the list. So what was the question?
Well, did you issue any in 2024?
No, because we're not issuing any water meters because there's not enough source.
When I had called in 2023, I was told that you're understaffed, that there isn't sufficient housing, that the budget won't allow even qualified people who could work on this water meter list. They didn't say anything about not having sufficient water. This is news to me today. It seems like there are an awful lot of subdivisions that are actually going up around Maui. I think it's time that, in fact, upcountry starts to get it together, and with the help of the director and the water department, we can see some water meters being issued to people like myself who have been on the water meter list for 21 years. That's unreasonable.
Right. And that's exactly why we brought this proposal forward. This is one way to get a new source fairly quickly. And by the way, the upcountry system is not connected to this anyplace else on Maui. At this point, it's completely independent. So the water there's no sources going anywhere else. The upcountry system is supported only by the surface water in the ditches and the wells that are upcountry. We do have, just kind of to a previous comment, we have 60 wells on Maui, and they're all productive. Thank you.
My name is Dennis Fitzpatrick. I live in Makawa. I'm concerned, we're always, when I bought my house in 1983, I was involved with the water department. And I was told then to never have shortages or anything like that. Well, we've had more shortages since then than I have fingers and toes. My concern is, will this water go to fix the fingers and toes part and give us the shortages, eliminate the shortages that we have always up country, and will developers be able to have the developments and expand it and it put more pressure on the water problem?
Right. So the first priority would be to deal with the shortages. And so I would not issue any new water meters unless I was convinced that the reliable supply could meet the demand. Right now, the reliable supply does not meet the demand. But until we have additional supply, we can't do that. Now, the first thing I would look at is let's make sure that whatever sources we get, if these wells are developed or any other source is developed, we would then recalculate the reliable supply. If at that point the reliable supply was still short, we wouldn't issue water meters then either. We would only issue water meters when we're convinced that the supply, reliable supply, exceeds the demand, and we're not there now.
I have a water meter already, but I've been involved with the Water Sustainable Tavares had a proposal for the Pi'iholo Reservoir, and it came online during Lyndon Legal's administration. And every county, every mayor, every council, every water director since then has always said we're going to fix the problem. And it didn't get fixed for 40 years, 45 years, and now we have a major problem. I personally think if we did more reservoirs, more Punawais, tied in the water that we have coming from East Maui, and we did the right water drilling. I took a geology class at the University of Hawaii. He said we have the Maui drilling goes at an angle hitting the wells. We have a lot of water underneath this island. But we need to get water. But the main thing is, before we add more development, we need to take care of the people that are here. And have been here for 40 years, or 20 years, or 30 years. Doesn't matter. We live here. And we need to hold off on expanding more pressure on the water system.
Right, so again, I totally agree. The first priority of any new source upcountry will be to meet the existing demand. And I would say, I hope East Maui Water Authority is effective and successful in getting additional surface water from East Maui, but that's not my responsibility anymore. The voters changed that. That's now the responsibility of East Maui Water Authority. My responsibility is to look for new sources as well, and that's what I'm trying to do here.
My final question is, why can't the county use capital improvement funds to put the infrastructure in? In the old days, they used capital improvement funds to build sewage plants, to build roads, to build anything infrastructure that we needed. Why does the water department, I know it's independent, but if it can't meet the needs and do that, why can't we use capital improvement funds, which we use to pay for everything in the past?
So we do. So until this year, all of the money in the water department was from the water users, right? And so we didn't get any additional money. It was all from the water users. When I came here a year ago, there was just enough money in the budget to cover the operations. So there was no additional money for capital projects. Now, we did get $10 million last year for capital projects from carryover from previous years. And the county did give us some additional money. The rest of the other parts of the county, the general fund, which is not the water fund, there was a transfer of $9 million from the general fund to the water fund because of the wildfires to help us deal with that. And with the new general excise tax that passed, there will be some additional funds coming for capital projects in the water department as well. But there's a very long list of capital projects in the water department. We prioritize those and we build them, and the funding sources include our fees to the extent they're available, carryover funds to the extent they're available, general excise tax, and we're also working really hard right now to get funding from outside sources. So we've identified about 110 projects that need to be done in the department, many of them upcountry, including a reservoir at Kamole, which we desperately need. And we're looking at potential funding sources from outside to help out because we are so short in terms of dealing with capital. So yes, we have a capital project. We're wanting to expand that. We're looking at outside funding, but we also need a rate increase to build up our rates as well. And again, we're not going to hit the low users. So yeah, that is the capital situation.
Aloha, and thank you for holding this meeting, Councilmember Sugimura, and for all of you coming out on a weeknight and giving up your time. My name is Lucy Dine, and I do have some questions here. First of all, would this system be subject to PUC regulation as a private system, or does it fall under the county's purview?
It would not fall under PUC. Certainly, if all that happens, which is what we expect, is that they drill wells and sell the water to the county, it would not require PUC approval.
Okay, and then if it is, sort of under the county's wing, will an environmental assessment be done for the wells and the solar project?
Right, so since it's a private investment, then that would not be required.
But even though the county is a partner, so aren't county funds kind of pledged to this? I mean, I'm a little confused.
So there's no county funds going to the development of the wells. The only thing that the county is paying for is once the project is completed to have water delivered to the county system. So it's the project itself, the drilling of the well, the creation of the solar farm Those are all going to be on private property, so it doesn't implicate EA requirements that way. And they also aren't using any county funds, so it doesn't trigger that either.
Okay, a little follow-up question. So then the county and the council feels very comfortable that they'll have no environmental data on the project, but just sort of step into it sight unseen?
Right. I mean, so the project is to drill a well, and so that's what the project is.
Well, you know, every other well that is drilled by the county, even some drilled by private entities, do environmental assessments, just so that, you know, folks can know what the big picture is. So I'll follow up with another one. So there was a test well drilled already on the property, and it was tested. Is there a testing report that the county council members would be able to review, or is that going to be made public in any way?
I think when we test the well for the first time, what will happen next if the county chooses to go forward with this project is we will, and somebody talked about contractors. This is going to be done by one of two contractors on Maui who have this expertise. We've talked to them at length. They understand these projects. They're probably the only two who can actually drill this kind of thing. This isn't like an oil well in Texas because there's different substrate. There is a permitting process, and that permitting process goes through the state. And so, and those well drillers and the hydrologists that we've hired to study the well will prove up the water quality. And in the agreement itself, it has to abide by the water quality standards that the director imposes upon us.
So the existing well that is there has never been tested for water quality?
It has been tested, and there is a report, and it ran in favor of the prior owner. So I don't really want to just hand it out to everybody, but before any water is bought by anybody, there will be testing. And as soon as we purchase the property, we will do testing, and we will give those results to the director Stuffling and everybody else who wants to see them.
So to be clear, we're being told it's a great well that already exists there, so there's hope for the future, but no one will actually see any actual proof that it's a great well.
No, everyone will see it's a great well.
Before they purchase.
That's part of it. We will own the property, and we will test the well, and if the well comes up dirty, then we just lost a lot of money.
Okay. And your water consultant, who are you using for your water consultant for your hydrological studies?
Well, we've been working with him Gooding. We have just a preliminary agreement with him. I'm not sure it's been signed, but we've been talking to him for over a year.
Okay. And then for the director, I'm taking a lot of time here, but so it's my understanding from reading recent reports that the county has the Pocatello well that can't be pumped at its capacity because there's not enough electrical capacity and so forth. And there's a second backup well being installed there as well. And then the county also has plans to increase its treatment capacity at the Kamoli treatment plant, where it could take up to 10 million gallons a day. And the county has a contract with A&B that allows up to 12 million gallons a day to be taken when it's available. With those water sources, it's not possible to give any more water meters out to people who've been waiting on this list, if that was fixed?
So if any new sources come online, we'll look at the reliable capacity. But both those things you mentioned have issues. The Pocatello well, the issue there is we can't run two wells at the same time. We have a backup well, we can run one well or the other because of power concerns. So we're looking to see if we can resolve that. Again, one of the advantages of this project is they're making their own power. As far as the Kamoli plant, we are not really deliberately expanding the capacity, but the filters need to be replaced. It's basically a filter plant, and the filters need to be replaced. Just the fact that we have to replace the filters will automatically increase the ability of the plant to treat water, because modern filters, the filters are 20 years old. The filters that we replace them with have a higher capacity because modern filters have a better capacity. So we're not really doing that necessarily to increase the capacity, but that will be the end result because the new filters are better. And if we can get, and that'll take the capacity up to potentially 10 million gallons per day. More recently, Sugimura told us they were going to only give us 4 million gallons per day at that plant. So that could be looked at as potentially changing. But again, I think we need it all. I think we need water from additional water at Camoli, the Bacala wells, and any other project that comes along because the demands of country are so much greater than the reliable supply.
Okay, well, thank you.
And I just have real quick regarding, the agreement with EMI and the expanded ability of the water treatment plant to produce more water. In the most recent revocable permit, the BLNR did actually limit us. So the BLNR isn't bound by our agreement with EMI. They set their own, thresholds for the amount of water that's being allowed to be taken out of licensed areas. And under the current revocable permit, they have limited. So it's not just like, now that we can process 10 million gallons a day, we're going to process 10 million gallons a day. We would need to have authorization through BLNR in order to do that.
Unless the water authority had released and not BLNR.
Correct, but then BLNR again would put conditions on that might not necessarily, give us 10 million gallons. But you're right.
But isn't EMI obligated to deliver 6 million gallons every day to you folks? Has that changed now?
Again, the BLNR is not dictated. They're not bound by our agreement. So they made their own decisions on that.
All right, thank you.
That's not true.
Also, we've got a little under a quarter of an hour left, so we're here till 8. That was the time we were allotted. So if we can't get to everybody's questions, we do apologize. But just before we get to our next folks here, that if you do have questions, you can come see us at the check-in desk. We can take that down and forward that on to the appropriate resource and hopefully get your response via email as well. We can take down your contact information. So just wanted to let everybody know that as we kind of wind down here.
This is a county building, right? You work for the county. I think you can answer all of our questions. 8:15. We as residents own this building.
Will.
Okay.
You don't have to close the gate. Good night. Okay, my name's Fred Borsum. I moved up to Haiku, I guess a little over 50 years ago. I'm not really good at this, so bear with me. I don't have a bunch of technical questions, but I do have a couple of big questions. We talk about 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 wells. We don't know what we're going to build. I'd like to know if all this water is going to stay up country, first of all.
So the answer to that is yes, this would be water for upcountry.
Only up country.
Well, yeah, so if the demands of the upcountry were, if we had actually ended up building 4 wells, and the demands of the upcountry were met, it's possible that we would look at sending this water to other places down the hill. Right now, we can't. There's no connection upcountry to central. We're looking at a connection from upcountry to central, really so we could pump water from central up to upcountry, which is what is more likely. But at this point, the first priority from these wells would be to meet the demand upcountry.
Okay, thank you. I think that's something that everybody here needs to know, because the first thing we need is water up country. Everybody here knows that.
Could I add one thing to that?
Yeah.
I was vice chair of the Upcountry Community Plan, and in there we wrote a specific statement that many people may have forgotten. No water that enters this district, meaning Pukalani, Makuau, Kula, can leave the district, except for agriculture and Hawaiian homelands. That's the only exception that we have. And so I would, so to answer the question, they cannot send this to Kihei for development. They can't send it down country, except for agriculture.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so if this water does come on board, will the local water meters, the farmers, the ranchers, the parks, etc., will they be the first to get the water?
So yes, absolutely. The first priority is to meet the demand of the existing users. Absolutely.
Okay, the thing is we don't need more development, we need water. That's the key here. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Lena Shirota Purdy, and I live directly across from the Montepski by Kula Community Center and the tennis courts. So many years ago, when Coleridge Malka was proposed, I and a bunch of our people in our neighborhood were greatly opposed to that because there was a lot of questionable things that was going to be happening within our community and not a lot of answers on accountability for the kids that would be walking from that area to school, people who would be on our streets, the increased traffic and all that stuff. Now, the fact that we didn't know anything about it until Councilmember Sugimura told us via an email about this is very disheartening because we are the community. We're right there, and we didn't know anything about this. Whether or not you didn't think that we needed to know about it, this affects us greatly. And some of the questions that we had back then when they wanted to do that development was what was going to happen with all the lighting, with the UH offices that's up from us, dealing with all that light, and also the fact that, you know, our community is very quiet, and with all this drilling, we knew something was happening with the other developer because we could hear that tapping, that drilling. But of course, we weren't going to be walking onto the property, but we knew something was going on. And then when the property was on auction for closure, I had to stop people in our neighborhood to tell them, hey, this is what happened, because we hadn't heard about anything in the longest time. We were just happy that it never passed. So I'm opposed to it, not only being a neighbor to this property, but also the fact that there are a lot of questionable things that's going to happen. And I'm a spouse of somebody that works for the water department, and I hear all the problems that happens in the water department and their system. One, the fact that they don't have enough workers. You know, we're trying to keep whatever water we have into our pipes, but if they lack the workers in the county for the water department, there's sometimes weeks that goes by that there's leaks left undone. You know, we have tanks that are obsolete, tanks that are broken. The cooling system has multiple tanks up there that they're offline because they're just so damaged. Why haven't we fixed those things? Why haven't we made more reservoirs? And this stems from not just now, this goes back from like the 70s. If you ask former water department supervisors what the problem was, they can tell you exactly what it was from the 70s moving forward, and it's been the same thing this whole time. Now, when you ask for questions about what we want to do, why don't you go to your supervisors within the upcountry system and ask them for their opinion? Because let me tell you, they have a lot of insight. They're the guys that are out there in the field every day, knowing where every pipe, every valve is, where all the systems are, the reservoirs. These guys know where the problem needs to be fixed. Yet you guys want to have all your discussions privately and don't go to the actual people that do the work. So if you want to help the water department and help the water keep it in the pipes, you need to go to those guys and you need to say, tell me, or you know what, better yet, walk with them. Go walk the Waikimoi flumes and all that stuff, and they will show you exactly what needs to be done and to help everybody get the water, and so all these people can get off the water meter list.
If I can just address that quickly. First of all, operationally we are fully staffed. And if there's leaks, I think we get to them right away. If there's leaks that you know about that have gone on for weeks, I need to know about that because we have a very active program to repair leaks right away, and we get to them. If there are leaks out there that we don't know about, I don't even know it. And I would add that the upcountry system is not a system that's designed really to modern engineering standards. And so the fact that the operators keep it operating is a huge credit to them. They're doing amazing work just to keep that system operating. The question is, you know, how the money that we have for through our capital program, how much of it do we spend to maintain and improve the existing system versus how much of it do we spend for developing new water sources? We absolutely could spend every penny on nothing more than the existing infrastructure and have no new water sources. What I'm being told is we should try to find some additional water sources. Thank you.
From the past water directors, they've always said let's do new reservoirs or let's make new tanks. So why hasn't that been done after all these years? And I've been married to my husband for 25 years, so it's a long time. I know a lot of things, unfortunately, that happens in the water department. And I've known all the past directors, supervisors, and all those people. They've all said the same thing. So yes, looking for water, a new water source is great, but when we have reservoirs that are overflowing when it rains heavily and we cannot catch that, then that is considered a water source if we had an extra reservoir next to it or somewhere down the line. Or what about people who have private reservoirs who aren't doing it at all, using it at all? Why can't we go and look into that? And then my last question is, Coolidge Malka, when it was that proposed plan, there was a question about the bones on the property. I want to know what has developed from that. Because the native bones, they don't just go away. So I want to know what's going to happen with that once you guys start drilling and moving things around there.
Yeah, I'll turn that over. But in terms of the reservoirs, just so you know, the top priority in this year's budget is the reservoir at Kamali, which is the most important reservoir of entry. So that's in my budget, number one priority.
As it relates to the archaeological issues, the existing site, and we heard that tapping, that is the existing well. It has been drilled. There's a box around it. There's also been a preservation plan that's been approved by the state for that site, and they've identified 9 archaeological site areas of the property that are of significance that need to be protected, and we would protect those.
Aloha, my name is Dawn Shirota, and I have a couple of questions. The first one was, what will the county's reason be for not looking at other proposals? Because I know initially you guys said you guys don't have to, but my question is, why wouldn't you guys look at other proposals for this? Because I just did a shopping for a roof about a year ago. I got 8 proposals. It varied from like $60,000 to over $120,000 to do my roof. And I just wanted to ask that question. That was one of my questions. That's my first question. And my second question was, it was mentioned that 20% of the water from this new development will go to the people in the upcountry water list. What does that look like in time for people who have been waiting for over 20 years? And how would that be, shared with like people from other, like Haiku or other areas? Will that Kula water be just for that area, or would people on the upcountry water list in other areas upcountry that's far from Kula be able to get that water? And what does that look like in time for people here over 20 years waiting on the list?
Right. So I don't know where the 20% came from. It wasn't from me. But in terms of when we start processing new meters, the process for that is we would if a new source comes online, we will look at what the reliable capacity of the system is with the new source, compare that to the demand, and if the reliable source exceeds the demand, and I don't mean the average demand, I mean the peak demand, then we would be able to issue new water meters. So until we get new sources, we can't issue new water meters. I'm sorry, what was your first question?
Yeah, so my question was, I know you said until you get a new water source, but it sounds like you guys have some understanding of how much water would be coming and what that looks like in time for people waiting 20 years?
Right. So, at this point, I can't issue new water meters. If I get a new source, we'll look at whether we can. And your question was, would the water go to the existing? No. So the way I look at it, I want to connect all the water, all the upcountry system, so that it becomes one system. There are connections, but there's a lot of limitations in how I can move water around. So the way we would look at it is that any water source added to the system anywhere helps the system everywhere. And we're looking at how we can make sure that we can move water freely across the system, and we think that's doable in the fairly near future. Right now there's some limitations. So we would look at water source anywhere as helping the entire system.
My question was for like time, because I have family members here over 70 and other family members not here that are home watching. What does that look like for time? For some of them, they have given up already.
Right. Well, if this project is approved and completed in 2 years, we would have a new source in 2 years. If it isn't, then it would be whenever another source can come online, and it could be longer than that, frankly. And that, we're looking at drilling wells. The East Maui Water Authority is looking at getting additional water from the ditches. Those are all going to take probably longer than 2 years.
Another question about the reasons why not to be asking other companies to counter-propose
If
these.
anybody else comes forward with a proposal, we'll consider that too.
Before April 5th.
Is my spot? Okay. Hi there. My name is Shay-Chan Hodges. I'm actually a resident of Haiku, but I'm former chair of the Maui County Water Board. And I did want to let everybody know that, as Dick Mayer said, the Maui County Water Board did look at this issue last Thursday, and you can see it on Akaku, and just Google Akaku Boards and Commissions. And I want to say we have an amazing Maui County Board of Water Supply. This is not talking about me because I've been on there for a couple of years. Tony is an outgoing board member. Buddy Nobriga is the outgoing chair. They had a 2-hour meeting. They asked really great questions. They have expertise. They have experience. They are long-term residents. They have roots in the community. They did a wonderful job, and every single one of them recommended against this project. And a lot of them, Buddy Nobriga talked about how his goal was to get everybody off that water meter list, and he had wished that that had happened during his tenure. Jason Hugh also said he was a little on the fence because he really wants to see something like this happen. But their issues were the financing, the issues were the details of the contract, the rushing of it. This guy, John Kelly, I have no idea, he has all this expertise from Scripps and San Diego University, and he raised a whole lot of questions, not only about the money, the contract, but also the technical, the engineering, and the scientific. And one of the issues he raised that kind of freaked me out was and as far as the risk, is what happens if there's damage done to the aquifer. And what is the accountability for that, especially given that these guys do not have any water experience whatsoever? And now that I learned that all their outsourced contracts are going to be secret, my question is, what is the accountability if there's damage to the aquifer? So that is one of my questions I wanted to ask Mr. Suppleby. My other question is to Mr. Suppleby and also the council members who are in this room, and Tom Cook, I know you're the VI committee chair. The Maui County Board of Water Supply is all volunteer. Their role is to advise the water director, the mayor, and the county council. So since they have recommended against it, my second question is, what is your response to their recommendation? How are you going to integrate that recommendation into how you move forward?
Yeah, to answer the second question, their role is advisory, and so their input will be heard by the council members who can then make the decision. My job was to offer an option for the county to consider. And so, it's up to the council whether they decide to move forward with this, but I felt that it was an opportunity that I should present as a new source of country. And I'm sorry, so in terms of aquifer protection, they will have to get a well drilling permit and an operating permit from the state. The state is the one who's in control of making sure that the aquifers are protected. So they will have to get permits that will be verified by the state.
But if something goes wrong, what happens?
Well, it depends what that is, but the state would not give a permit unless they were comfortable that the well can be successful. If the county is only obligated to purchase the water the well produces. So if the well fails, then there's no water produced. The county doesn't have obligation.
I'm talking about the environmental. I'm talking about the impacts to our aquifer. And I'm not an engineer, so I'm only repeating what I heard, but that's a concern that I had. And then as far as getting the water board's comments, which were 2 hours worth of really great questions and your answers to the council, because it was rushed, they, under, sunshine laws, they couldn't just do a letter and get it to the council members because they would have to have another meeting and it would have to go on the agenda. So how will you ensure that those 2 hours of really, really good questions get to our council members.
Right, so
And I
two-
didn't see them on the meeting, so.
Yeah, so two ways. One is the meeting's online, you can watch it. We also have detailed minutes that will be transmitting to the council tomorrow.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Ian Chan Hodges from Haiku. Grew up there, born in Nevada. And Shay and I's kids went to school up in Kankakee. My first question is actually to Jack and Mike. And because your deal actually, from an investment point of view, you do get this, if the council approves and Tom and Yuki, I'm assuming they will vote for it, if they vote for it, you're going to be in a great position with investors from my perspective. Because the only real risk is the risk of what happens to the well. But my question to you is, since the county actually, by signing this 30-year agreement, gives you the ability to actually go forward and get your investors, and so we're all sort of your investors in a way. Assume that you're in one of your building, your dad's building, Jack, in Chicago, and you're in the elevator, and we're all in there, and you want to make an elevator pitch. How would you pitch this investment as if we're investors to all of us? So in other words, what rate of return are you expecting? How are you going to address the risk of a failed well? That sort of thing. And for both the things, for both the water and also the microgrids. So in other words, we're in your investors, you're in one of your dad's buildings in River North, and we're in the elevator, you have to give me an elevator pitch. What would you say?
Well, we are pitching a concept right now because we're not sure if this will get approved, but basically we're trying to underwrite this to the risk that we're taking. For the first well alone, we'll be into this project for over $45 million, and so we need a return on that capital. And it's typically, you try and build to a cost over that, and there's tremendous risk on our end. So it's a little bit higher of a return because of the risk profile that our investors are taking.
So I'm an investor, we're investors, what return are we looking at?
Well, I'm happy to talk to you about it. But
publicly, tell us what
it's not a public offering. I'm happy to talk to any individual if they want to invest and they're real.
So I'm asking the question of, this is a very similar question I asked to Ryan Patton with Monty Bonos when he first came here, because he was talking about, we're going to listen to the community, we're going to hear what the community has to say, what the community want to grow. And I finally asked him, hey Ryan, when you went to your investors and you made your investor pitch, did you tell them we're not really sure what we're going to do? Yeah. He goes, no, of course not. I said, so what did you tell them you're going to do? And what's the target rate of return? So I'd like to know, is the target rate of return, we're talking about 10%, 15%, 20%? What's the general range of target rate of return?
I would say in terms of there's been some discussion of not knowing what we're going to do. That's actually not true. The circumstances that there's a lot of variability in the project. So it's anywhere from negative to positive. If he takes 4 wells and rolls out all the meters to all the users and does so very quickly, our returns are great. If one well works and that well taps the aquifer in a way that the project doesn't work very well, and we're able to build 10 homes, we may get out with our money. So we don't really actually know what we're doing. So when I say we don't know what we're going to do, it's an engineering geological issue. When they dig that, when they bring that well, and so quite frankly, a lot of people are interested in this project because it's environmentally, it's deemed to be an important public project. Public-private partnerships are really hard, and people want to pursue them because there's a lot of different views on everything that these kind of projects that happen, and so they often fail. And so this is a really attractive investment to investors, and I think they're willing to take a bit lower return on this project than they might on others. So that's my pitch. My pitch is that we don't know where it's going to come out, but we think it's really important.
So when you're talking to me and talking to us about investment, you're saying rate of return because it has to counter the risk. What are you talking about? You're talking about 20%?
If this project is for one well only because the options to have future wells are in the county's hands. If we buy this land and build only one well, our returns will be less than 14%. And that is not a risk that most people want to take. If the second well happens, the return goes up.
Okay.
So the way they look at it, the investors, is they assume the county won't take a second well. So it's a pretty low return for the risk we're taking in the investment.
Okay. So your cost of capital is about 14%.
Well, we're talking to them right now. That's what we're trying to get.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the county's bonds, the county floats bonds.
We can't get county money.
No, I'm not talking about the alternative is the budget session starts next week. And Yuki Sugimura is the budget chair. So if she decides to float county bonds to pay for this, the cost of capital would be about 3 to 4%. So that's what us as ratepayers would actually be paying off of that cost. So then we go back to the risk of the well, which you can actually insure. So you can go and figure out what the insurance rates are, because you can do that. So that's my question. Like, we're all your investors, because if Tom and Yuki actually vote for this, you're going to have a great thing in hand to take to investors. Especially for the microgrid is awesome, like for an investor. Like you're gonna, like electric, PV rates are going down. You guys haven't going up. Like, who doesn't want to invest in that?
So I was going to say, in terms of, your question is, should the county just do this ourselves?
Right.
And that's a valid question. And I think the two reasons why we could do that, and we are looking at doing that on other wells as well. The question becomes, are we willing to take the risk? I'm not sure we could get an insurance company to insure the county on a well that didn't work, but maybe we could, I don't know. But so first of all, the well could fail, and then we've totally lost our money. The second issue is, this ties up $30–40 million of money that we need for everything else. So by having, we only have a certain capacity to float bonds, have to pay them back. We have a certain capacity for capital projects. So we could use them on this project, but we have a lot of other needs for that same money.
So the reality is, just really quick on somebody else talk, the county's bond ceiling right now, in terms of how much bond they can float a lot more. So obviously you don't want to go into debt, but if you're going into debt to actually have a cost of capital that's much lower than what they were talking about, you might as well do that.
Right. Yeah, and again, the other issue is, if we think this is getting too expensive, we can always buy them out. We have the option to do that, but I understand. But the issue is, there is a limit. I mean, our ability to get bonds is going to be based on our revenue base. And so there's a certain limit, and we're just the water department. And so we have so our limit in terms of bonds is a certain amount. If we use it on this project, we wouldn't have it available for other projects. That's okay.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you all? Trying to speak quick and over time. Thanks for letting us continue to speak. My name is Kyle Ellison. I'm the executive director of the nonprofit Malama Kula that was formed in the wake of the Kula fire, which we'll talk about in a second. For Director Stufflebean, I just have help me understand. I have a difficult time understanding the concept of not issuing any more meters until we have another source, simply because, to me, given the known infrastructure inefficiencies that have been exhibited by many people in our current water supply, I kind of take it as if I've got a refrigerator full of food that's spoiling, and I'm telling people you can't eat until I go to the supermarket. And I just, we've got devastating flooding in North Kihei every winter. We have an excess of fresh water rushing down the mountain. We have water, we simply can't seem to capture it. So I just simply don't understand why we aren't investing in more supply, which, as everyone in this room has intimated, reservoirs, catchment, things that don't involve drilling. And why aren't we just simply investing why aren't we upgrading our infrastructure? Whether you drill or not, our infrastructure is just going to get older. So why aren't we just investing in upgrading the infrastructure that we have?
Oh, we are.
Okay, which is good.
That's a big part of our budget. And again, we're looking to do that both with county funds and with outside funding. Okay. So absolutely, a major part of our capital program is improving infrastructure. And in terms of catchment, that's a great thing we want to look at. We ran the numbers, and it's not, and we've looked at other issues with respect to catchment. It's not turning out to be particularly advantageous when you look at all the different criteria, especially the cost. But it certainly could be an element of our future, but it's not looking like a solution that can really give us major additional sources when we need it, which is when it's not raining.
Okay. I just came straight from cleaning up the Kula fire, which I've been doing every single day since August 12th. Help me understand how, in an area that is already experiencing rapid desertification of the landscape, and we're trying to bring back a thriving, healthy native watershed, how is tapping the aquifer and removing water from the ground going to help us create a more climate resilient community that is not at threat to things like fire from being exceptionally dry due to invasive native species, and how is taking water out of the ground going to help us create a safer community when we're already bone dry?
Right, so the issue with this, the good thing about this water, and this is somewhat controversial, is that it appears that there's a significant amount of additional sustainable yield available for new wells. So this is tapping an aquifer where, according to the state, certainly, there's a significant amount of additional yield that you can pull out without having impacts because it's a sustainable yield. You're not drawing it out faster than it's coming in. So, but the other issue is we need water to fight fires. We need water for fire suppression. And so right now, we're limited on how much water is available to fight fires. We're vulnerable to system failure during fires. New sources such as this one in different locations help in a number of ways. It provides additional water, plus it provides water in a new location. I mean, for example, right now, if, again, all the water flows north to south in the system, if you have a break somewhere, everything south of that is out of water. If you have additional sources further down in the system, that could still provide water for that area that's no longer available. So I mean, I think this actually is, any new sources, including this, is beneficial in terms of being able to fight fires and having a sustainable system.
But we won't have as many fires if we manage to land correctly and it isn't so dry.
No, and that's another issue. So absolutely, we need to do better on managing the land. And that's not something that is my responsibility. However, you know, we do spend 4% of our budget on watershed restoration. And so that's more than the other counties do. And so, we are certainly looking at how we can, certainly the best long-term solution is to restore the watersheds to a healthier condition, and we're working towards that. That's a many decades-long process to do that. But that maybe that's the most important thing we're doing. But nevertheless, in the meanwhile, we need water.
Okay, you're right, we do need water. All right, thank you. Sorry, I had a note here. In terms of the capital, obviously things take money. Have you looked into the CFD, the Community Facilities District, that was approved by the county that is yet to be used in Maui County, where a special tax can be placed on homeowners who would like to be part of it, that can be used to raise capital to fund public infrastructure? Community Facilities District. I said the wrong word. A Community Facilities District to. Maybe there are some people out there who this is what they want their legacy to be, and they would like to raise, form their own tax district on themselves to fund public infrastructure. Has that been discussed at any point? Because it is authorized to be used by Maui County, and we've never used it before.
Okay, I haven't looked at that directly, no.
Maybe we should look into that. If we're talking about ways to raise capital that don't involve, bringing in people from outside that we don't know if this is working or not. For the developers, just out of curiosity, pure curiosity, if this is exclusively about the water, would you be willing to give up the 21 homes?
Well, we don't know if the first well is going to work. And because the land is so expensive, we need to have that option to be able to build 21 homes. The existing test well that was done would be able to be used just for the 21 homes. But again, we won't know that until we build it, unfortunately.
Understood. Just want to make sure it's not
We did limit that. It's in the agreement that we won't do more than 21. And it's over 272 acres. I understand people don't want any new homes. But I also understand the people who have water meters are trying to prevent the people who don't, and they're waiting for over 20 years to get water meters. And I think that's an injustice as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of injustices here. So, and why are you doing this?
Because we believe it's a good opportunity. We also believe, after meeting with the county, that this was a huge need. The original developer was going to keep the water all himself. And if we don't purchase the land, I'm sure the next landowner will just keep the water for himself.
Should we be profiting off of need?
That's a question I can't answer.
Okay. And then I'll pass it off to someone else here, but I think that the last thing that Director Stufflebean's admission that if the county were to do this, it would take a lot longer. That's kind of the elephant in the room that we're not going to solve that tonight, but maybe we should make it so that government doesn't take so long to do things that we have to go through entities like that. But we'll do that at the next meeting. Thank you.
to be able to see all of you when I'm talking to you. My name is Michelle Del Rosario. I live up country. Thank you for all staying this evening. It is an important issue. I want to thank you, Hule, for organizing this, for our community, for Councilmember Cook for attending. I wish we had 9 council members here. And for Dick Mayer, who always selfishly looks out for our community. Thank you, Dick. My question was, you said you're purchasing a property, you don't own it currently, and that you're purchasing it in an auction. Was that a foreclosure auction?
Yeah, so the foreclosure has already happened, so Montepsi's have already gone through that process, so we're actually buying it from them.
But you said there was an auction.
Yeah, there was a public auction at the courthouse staff back in October.
And you bid?
No, we didn't bid.
So who were you about the Von
Tempsey's credit bid? Their debt was so high that they credit bid all the way up, so they are now the ones who are taking back the property. And we have a contract with them to purchase from them.
So this auction sale isn't really an auction sale, it's a private party sale. If they already own it and you're buying it from them, it's not an auction, is that correct?
It's not anymore, it was. Okay. And they just got the property officially from the court. They don't have title yet, they're still waiting on title.
Well, that was my next question was this a judicial foreclosure?
We contracted with them a contingent contract. If they were successful at the auction, they would be buying for them. So we did that prior.
So they bought it in a judicial foreclosure through the courts?
Correct.
And the judge confirmed their purchase price as the highest bidder?
Yes, that happened February 21st.
Okay. What is your purchase price?
Well, it's a private purchase price, but I can tell you it's over.
I'm asking.
Yeah, it's over $15 million.
Okay, because it will be recorded, at least in our tax records and our Bureau of Conveyance.
Well, with the addition of, so it's going to be, with all the closing costs, it's going to be close to $16 million.
Okay. When was the first time either one of you ever stepped foot on Maui?
Well, I've been to Maui a handful of times, just as, like a lot of people come to visit, but we've been working on, I've been on that site. You've probably been down there 2 years ago. I was up there about 1.5 years ago.
If you learn nothing today, I think you need to realize that our community is active and vocal, and you should have come to us 2 years ago.
Again, I didn't have control until February 21st.
No, you didn't need control, because you're not giving us a lot of details tonight, and we could have had the same conversation on your assumptions, which we didn't get an opportunity to do, and this is being very rushed and dropped on us. For the director, Sepulveda, I did work for a county council member, and I know the council members here in the room, and for years the council has been told we have plenty of water. Our issue is storage and transmission. When did that shift? Because what I'm hearing you tonight say is we don't have plenty of water. So which is it? We do or we don't?
We don't have plenty of water.
And when was that decision, evaluation made, that we shifted from we have plenty, we just need storage and transmission, to we don't have enough?
Well, ever since I've been here, it's been clear we haven't had enough. I've been here a little over a year. But certainly, last October was a pretty good evidence, because we didn't have enough water to meet the demand in the entire month of October. We almost completely drained the reservoirs. And if it hadn't rained in November, there would have not been any water for Upper Kula.
Okay. I appreciate that you've only been here a year, but I can tell you that we've had a lot of water projects funded up country that have never been built and implemented by your predecessors as directors of the water department. I, as an up-country resident, will oppose the project. I'll testify. I'll rally people to come up and testify against the project. I have been on the water meter list. I got tired of waiting. I sold my property up on Haleakala Highway. I am hopeful that at some point we won't have a water meter list, but water is the currency of this century. And if you look at the southern U.S., it's going to continue to become more prevalent with climate change. I'm all supportive for what you want to do if you go out and you open it up for open bids for anyone to come forth and present a project. But I think this reeks of Maui County backroom deals, people who are now in prison, And I just see more backroom deals being done. It doesn't make you, Director, look good that you've been talking to these people for a year and a half, and the community, at least the council members, haven't been communicated to. I don't think it's an open and transparent process. And that's really all I have to say.
Well, I don't appreciate you accusing me of being unethical. I've worked for 44 years.
It's unethical to not open for open
No,
bids.
I'm just saying.
And if you do a sole source
There's nothing-
contract.
I'm not going to let you finish. You cut me off, so have a loud voice. Don't open it up for public bid, and that is the appearance of a conflict.
It's still being recorded, and that's the whole point. So everybody that's trying to watch it won't be able to understand if you guys don't give each other at least 10 seconds, is what I'm trying to say. I'll turn this back on, but I'm just telling you, that man is there trying to record it so he can get you everything so everybody can hear it. That's the whole point. You guys can't talk over each other.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say, the contract in its entirety will be transferred to the council tomorrow. They will have every opportunity to look at it. There's nothing in there that's hidden. We've only been working on this because, as they mentioned, I wasn't ready to bring it forward until I felt it was a contract that I was comfortable presenting to the council. I now feel it's a contract ready to be presented. The timing is unfortunate. I totally agree with that. But there's been nothing in here that's been done in the back room that's unethical. We simply brought forward the contract when it was ready. The timing is what it is. I felt I had an obligation to bring this to the council for consideration.
Thank you for that. I wasn't saying that I felt you were being unethical, Director. What I said is it gives the appearance of continued backroom deals and cronyism and corruption, which Maui County has experienced in the past. All I'm asking for is we need more time. April 5th is not enough. We need better transparency, and we need it earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is James Padilla, and a question about the water meter list. You're not issuing new water meters because there's not enough water, correct?
Correct.
So if the deal goes through, you'll issue new meters?
If the deal goes through, the first thing we'll look at is what is this entire source of the country relative to the demand. If I'm comfortable that the sources with this new project or whatever other new sources available is sufficient to meet demand and there's additional water, then we'll start issuing water meters.
So yeah, I mean, I appreciate we obviously need more water, but so if there's more water, you can issue more meters. So you stop issuing meters because there was no water. So the meters you issued before in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, you're saying there was enough water for those, because there was only a few water meters issued in those years, right?
Yeah, that was really before my time, but when I came in, I looked at the situation, how much water is available, and there is less water than there used to be. I'm not saying that there was bad decisions in the past. There used to be more water in the ditches than there is now, and so that's what really changed. In October, there was no water at all in the upper ditch. There was no water at all in the middle ditch, and the water in the lower ditch was as low as we've ever seen it. That's different than it was in years past. So it's fairly true, it's not entirely true, possible that there was water in the past, but not anymore because of the changes that have occurred in the ditch system in East Maui. The state, the requirements for to leave water in the streams and less rainfall.
So the people that got issued meters in those years, those meters could be installed, correct?
Yeah, if someone has an approval for a meter, that was determined at that time that there was sufficient source, those could be installed, yes.
Okay, so my question is, and if you do get approved and you get more water, are the people that they're going to get a letter in the mail saying they're approved for a water meter, and then what happens to a lot of people who've been on the list for years, 20 years in my case? You get a letter in the mail saying you're approved for a water meter, and then you get a second letter in the mail saying that you got to do thousands to, in my case, millions of dollars in improvements to have that meter installed. It doesn't say anything about not having enough water. It says you need to improve the system, and that's my responsibility. And as a taxpayer, I mean, I've lived here my whole life. The system that was put in, paid for by my parents' taxes, and now they want me as an individual to pay, in my case, in the millions of dollars for one 5/8" water meter. Are the people, that get issued water meters going to receive these same letters? So basically, are they going to be able to actually install their meters, is my question.
Right. So in most situations, in most cities, the government builds a water system, and then the residents can get their meters. The upcountry system is different in that it's not really designed like a normal water system. There are these places where properties that are not easily accessible by the existing system. And so the previous policy has been that the individual property owners had to pay for that extension of the water line. That's nothing to do with the source. That relates to the infrastructure. Now, what I would like to do is to work on enhancing the infrastructure so that doesn't happen as much, or maybe not at all. And that's why, I think we talked about this before, we're developing a condition assessment of the upcountry system, the whole Maui system, and a hydraulic model for how the system works to see if we can, to help us determine where we could make improvements to make it so there were much fewer cases like yours where a private property owner had to pay so much to get their water to their property. And so that's certainly a priority of our department as well, is to get the infrastructure system more like what a typical city would have in terms of the system. But the upcountry system is just different.
No, okay, thank you. Let's hope that works out.
And so we'll finish with our last three questions here and then wrap it up. Thank you.
My name is Edward Cordelia. I've lived in Kula for 25 years. I lived on Maui for 35. I've been a licensed realtor here for 31. I'm pretty sure that list you have has the same people on it from 30 years ago, most of them. I don't understand why we're still in this position. It doesn't make any sense to me now that you guys have well, let me explain to you. Yeah, I do understand why we're in this position is because this island's been overdeveloped. Upcountry's been overdeveloped. A lot of things have changed. We've got a lot more houses here now, and a lot of water's being diverted to different sources, to different places. Having said that, I have a question for the director. I'm wondering what they were doing across from Kekalike for about the last year and a half with that well or whatever they had high-rise thing there in the vacant lot. Were they drilling for water in that land over there? Are you aware of that or not aware of that?
I'll have to check that later. I don't know the answer to that right now.
Okay, so it looked like there was a drill set up across from Kekalike in a vacant field. And it's been there. It was there for a long time until like a week ago it came.
That wasn't the county.
No, of course it's not the county. It's a private guy. Obviously, the county can't do it because you got private guys here. You got a guy here with his lawyer. That's amazing to me that somebody would show up with their lawyer to come to talk to us. Yeah, you're a retired lawyer, but you're a lawyer and a builder. I got it.
He's an investor in the project. He's a former lawyer.
Former lawyer. He's also a builder, if I heard him correctly. And a developer. That's what you said as well. So when you start throwing a developer around here right now, you're probably on the wrong island because this isn't the place for development. You guys basically came in and bought a subdivision, if I'm not mistaken. There was a subdivision proposed on that 272 acres. You guys somehow found a foreclosure property, but you didn't buy it. You didn't bid on it. You had somebody else bid on it, and then you made a deal with that person who bid on it, which was the original owner. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the way the auction works is the lender credit bid it up to the maximum amount of what their debt was owed. And nobody else at the auction wanted to pay that.
So Montesky is not involved. You're dealing with the bank.
No, the Monteskis were the lender.
The Monteskis were the lender on the land.
Correct.
To the original developer for that subdivision. Is that how it went?
Correct.
Okay, so he couldn't come through with it, so they took it back and ran it up, and now they're going to sell it to you folks for the $15 or $16 million, and they got it covered, right? So you guys are going to give them the $15 or $16 million. Once this is done, and whether you get the water or not, you still got 272 acres. right? So maybe you get one well.
That's the risk we're taking, correct?
I don't know about the risk. You can sell it at a pretty good penny, and you guys will get out. But the problem is here, we don't need any more houses up here. We need water, of course. We have, like the guy, everybody's told you, there's water, right? They just don't know how to take it. They don't know how to get it. They don't know how to hold it, and they don't know how to store it. They don't want to build storage tank. I drive down the highway and I see this small reservoir that's just kind of battered with the tarps flying around. I don't know what that is either. I live next to a couple of storage tanks from the water department that are pretty active daily and in the night. They're pretty loud, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not in favor of any of this. I'm not in favor of drilling in the mountain anymore. The wells haven't really done anything for us, and they've been drilling for a while. So you guys got to figure it out, because this is what you guys get paid for, and it's just getting out of hand. You guys are fast-tracking a lot of stuff down our throats right now, and we're just not ready for it. We need to kind of focus on the people, and developers just got to back off a little bit. That's all I got.
Hi, my name's Stacy. I live in Pugalani. I'm a mom. I'm here because this contract, my son will be 33 years old when this contract is up. I'm 33 years old. This is like, you're talking about my entire lifetime worth of time, and no one's asked these questions yet. Why is this being rushed? Why is this April 5th deadline something that we have to do? Our community's been through so much. You've seen enough people here with only short notice. You dropped this press release on a Friday afternoon, and we're still here. I wish I was at home. I know a lot of people are irritated that I brought my son, but why April 5th? Why is this happening so quickly?
Yeah, so I addressed that earlier. It's just a timing issue with the contract. We have to get it approved.
But why is that in the contract? Most contracts have extensions.
It's not in the contract with the county. It's a contract with the purchase price.
So if we don't agree to this deal, what happens?
Some other developer will buy it and build houses there. This water deal will go away.
So I'm also concerned with, why does this developer suddenly get permits? People have been trying to build their houses for years. So why does this particular development suddenly get to build without any?
Yeah, that's not accurate. We have to go through every permitting process everybody else does. So that's not an accurate statement.
Okay, so you're saying that someone else is going to buy it and develop it, but I feel like we're being offered this deal under duress. You guys need water. We're going to give you this deal to give you water, and you have until a month from now, not even a month, 2 weeks from now, to say yes or no?
1 week.
1 week.
I've wrestled this with myself. Unfortunately, I didn't get control until February 21st. We made it public as soon as we could. We had to make sure the director was okay with the contract before he brought it to the council. I'm under a deadline, and we're just asking the council to do this. We're going to have to go through every permitting process like every other, and the water's not for us. We're literally selling it to the county.
For a big profit.
For a profit, yeah.
Because you're selling this to us as if you're doing this to be charitable for the public good, but you're planning to make a good profit.
It's a public-private partnership. We believe it's good for the county and good for us, yeah.
The deadline was negotiable.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering is, would you be willing to extend that deadline, knowing with the response that you had here, that we need more time? Because the contract's not even been available to the public to read or even the council members to read yet, and you want us to decide this in a week?
I think there's a mix-up between the two contracts. I have no flexibility on my contract. The contract with the county is really up for the council to decide if they want to do it or not.
So if the county doesn't agree, you will not buy this property?
No.
And who will own it then?
The Von Hemskys. And then they'll sell it to someone else. And a new person may just develop homes on the site and use the water for themselves.
So now my question is for, sorry, I forgot your name, sorry. Why doesn't the county step in and buy this property? if it's such a good source of this premium sent from the Angel's
Right.
water, why don't we buy it? Or
Sure,
take it by...
Yeah, we could develop a well. We could develop wells up country. And we're looking at developing wells up country. The issue is that there's risk involved with that, and so in this case, they're taking the risk of drilling the well. We could take the risk of drilling the well. And then there's the other issue of we then have to have the capital money to drill the well. So not only would we have to buy the property for $15 million or whatever it is, we would also have to invest taxpayer funds, water user funds on the order of $30 or $40 million per well to drill these wells. And so we could do that. We could expend that money, take the risk. Absolutely, we could do that. And the other option is have a public-private partnership do it, and we think there's some advantages that at least should be considered, and that's what we're looking at. I think Dick wanted to say something.
I appreciate the fiscal creativity, but at some point, having a private company that clearly doesn't understand like the cultural aspect of what's going on here with water, outsiders, development, these are all like words that make people feel feelings. And they don't seem to really understand that, the trust issue here that's already been broken. And the risk really is to have a private company that doesn't understand our community owning this valuable resource of our water.
You asked a question, but I don't think we got a complete answer. Let's say the county does not accept the contract or this agreement, and these two folks go away, they decide they can't do the deal. Well, Simpsons would own the land and would probably try to sell it. And let's say they said that probably some other developer will come in. It's very unlikely that another developer will come in and build houses because they don't have water. They're on way down the water meter list. So I think that, I don't know if the number is 800 or whatever the number is now. And so they probably wouldn't do it. And the individual developer would not be able to build that well and operate it just for the 21 houses that would be on that property. So more than likely, Bontemps would, if they want to sell it, would have to sell it for a much lower price to get anybody interested in buying it. And that might happen, but I don't think anybody's going to buy it because it doesn't have the ability to build houses on it now. Now, let me add to that. What I would add is that what I think the water department should be doing proactively is they should go, rather than, sort of standing back from the water authority, they should be working with the water authority and symbiotically working together with the water authority and the water department to go to the State Board of Land and Natural Resources and urge the state to give the water authority the East Maui lease areas. And then the water authority would have the capability of selling the water to Mahi Pono and to upcountry, to the upcountry water system, and use the money and the revenues that they're earning to repair the ditches themselves and to restore the watershed in East Maui. And I think they could do that and still allow the flow of water to go into the East Maui streams, which is what DLNR and Seymour would like to do.
Would the director be willing to take a proposal from Mr. Mayor, because he sounds like he has a lot of...
No, we're doing that. No, we are working hand in hand. Well, the Water Authority was just created. They just selected their board. They just selected their president 2 weeks ago. I met with him on Monday, and we talked about... we have a scope of services that we have already prepared for them to use to evaluate the MI system. They're going to present that to the board for consideration, and we are working hand in hand with them and offering whatever assistance we can to help them with their mission, which is to ultimately purchase the MI system and then figure out how to operate it.
I appreciate that. Just one more question. You mentioned that this property is on the water meter list, so by doing this project, would they get to jump that list from their current position?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Shelley Madigan. I had no intention of coming up here, but I just wanted to clarify something. You continually say the water meter list exists because there's no water. The water meter list exists because there's no infrastructure. And you have mentioned that, but primarily you're going on about we have no water. And I just wanted to clarify, as Jason said, I was on the list and I got the same letter he did. It was going to cost me millions of dollars. I wasn't even asking for a meter. I just wanted to enlarge so I could get fire protection. And most of us up country have no fire protection. But you want us to spend millions of dollars when the county approved subdivisions and did not put in proper pipes so I just that's the only thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think that used to be true, but right now, there's not enough water either. So that's another factor besides the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. What an evening, right? So appreciate everybody who has come. And thank you very much, Akaku, for continuing to film this. I think we went over our time schedule that we had committed to. And more to come, right? I can tell there's just more to come. And the information that we got tonight is appreciated by everybody. I want you to know that you can email my office. My email address is my name, basically, yukile.sugimura@mauicounty.us. I'm sure you can email any of the council members. Tom Cook is here, and, express your concerns. And Don Stufflebean and I are always texting each other, so I'm sure we'll be talking more. And I hear you. I wish that, there's a way that we can solve all the problems. Here's Tom.
Hey, hello everybody. Yukile does public meetings like nobody else. She does. She does a great job constantly being able to do outreach. It's been a very interesting night, very dynamic. I just want to share with you as the chair of water and infrastructure, having been working with the people, working with Dick, and this is not done in the back room, etc. But I want to say, you know why we don't have water infrastructure? For the last 4 administrations, they have not raised water rates. Okay? And I know that the previous water directors, Director Stufflebean came, and he goes, we need to raise the water rates. And Mayor Beeson agreed. And so nobody has traditionally or historically wanted to raise water rates. It's a limited, restricted fund. And the way that they get money to install infrastructure and upgrade is with water rates. They'd like to do, the more water meters you put out, the more money you're going to make and the more capital you have and the more ability. We have the consent decree that we haven't been able to drill wells in Haiku for 20 years, and that was litigation that was inspired by the Sierra Club. I understand and respect the concern for the aquifers and not wanting to damage them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Maui County is the only county that has surface water. Okay. Honolulu, aquifers. Big Island, Kauai, aquifers. And so, just to put it in perspective, we have challenges, but we have an opportunity. The opportunity is for our community to come together and agree that we want to improve the water supply, that we want to improve the infrastructure. And it's just a shame because the county, the restrictions that the county has is so limiting. Kali'i Maile, you guys notice? Guess what? Big subdivision, water tanks, drilling a well into the aquifer. That's not any backroom deals. That's somebody who is capitalized doing the project, engineered, and the Department of Health and the state lets them do it. The county can't do that. The county has the potential to do that. But the restrictions that are put on us make it take twice as long and makes it cost more. Okay? It is, and what I'm saying is overly simplistic. I see Lucienne shaking her head back there, and I'm just sharing with you, it isn't for lack of trying. I have a lot of confidence in the new
administration, the new water director is very progressive. Whether it's, desal, we're working really hard for getting R1 water to the hotels in South Maui, which would free up potentially 2 million gallons a day of potable water. Okay, these are projects that are going to take some time. There is the desire and the effort to it in an environmentally friendly and something that the county can live with to solve these problems. So I just want to share that with you. Okay, and I want to thank you, Kile and Dick. I love you, but half the stuff you said we worked out in meetings, and you're kind of regurgitating it.
The audience.
No, I know. Okay, I'm not saying that derogatorily. The reason I'm saying it is because we've had meetings to address the issues, and I thought that they were addressed. So bringing them up, is that a bad thing? Well, you weren't in the meeting, so anyway.
Exactly. We need to know.
So
we didn't know. Only you knew. We need to know. What did you not get here? Right.
I hope
You
everybody
guys are
has.
supposed to represent the community, but you're not communicating with the people you're representing.
Had it in a room behind closed
And
doors,
that's
so we
the
didn't know.
problem. Right.
Thank you.
Thanks to you, Peter. She does.
Very, very important what you said. So he's the water infrastructure chair, and he is on top of all of this. He solved a lot of problems in the community. I respect Tom a lot. So members, audience, you can email me or you can text me. My cell number is 808-870-8047. If you just look me up on Google, you'll find my cell number, or you can call my office. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much. If you can. Thank you very much.